All right, y'all see that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. We are live.
Let's go.
All right. So brother, what was the question that you was going on again, man? I,
So topic of discussion. And it was something that I had seen recently and started looking at. You know, when we go into the book of Isaiah, chapter 14 and verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Who is this Lucifer? So I looked it up in the Hebrew, and it says the light bearer, basically, or Hillel, is what it says in the Hebrew. And I need to get into my concordance and lexicon to see, exactly the definition of this word. But this word only shows up one time in the entire Bible itself. So, which raises another question: if Lucifer was his name as an angel, because this is what we've been taught, this was his angelical name when he was in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Then, once he was cast out of heaven, he was named the devil after that. And you don't even see that word too many times in the Bible. So where did this concept come from, and where did this whole thing come from that this was his angelical name, and he got cast out of heaven, and now his name is the devil or Satan, and just that's the basis of it. Why, if this is supposedly the Prince of Darkness and Beelzebub and all the other names he's been given, if this is such an important figure in this narrative that we have here, why is it that he only shows up one time in the whole narrative? And why is so much emphasis being placed on him and he's only in here once? So who is this? Really, who is this? If, to me, this couldn't be talking about the same person that we've actually subscribed this name to, because it would be all over the text. But it's only showing up one time. And then the alternate names that he's been given, even Baal, if you want to say that, that's not even in here a whole bunch of times. You know what I mean? So it's like, most of the time that we see any trouble or problems, it's problems that we've caused ourselves, not this Baal character or this Lucifer character. So, where does this train of thought come from? And really, who is this Lucifer character here that we see in Isaiah 14 and 12? So that's my question, and I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay. Very good question. And it's complicated, but it's very simple. And what I mean by that is that it's complicated because you're dealing with various strands of theological concepts that have come from different sources, whether it's Zoroastrianism, whether it's of course the offshoot of Zoroastrianism, which is Mithraism. There's a lot of different sources that we have to kind of look at just to deal with the term Lucifer. Forget about the context, and we'll get to the context in a few minutes. But let's just looking at the term Lucifer, and there's a reason why you don't see Lucifer pop up anymore after this text, because the term Lucifer, as a translation, derives from the Latin Vulgate. It does not. The term Lucifer, as far as it being translated from the word Hillel, in most other English translations of Isaiah 14:12, you're gonna see, oh, how thou have fallen from heaven, oh, you know what I'm saying, oh, bright one, or son of the morning, whatever the case may be. The term bright one, it makes much more sense textually than to say Lucifer, because Lucifer, if you do a little background research on the term, it is straight out of the Latin Vulgate. So what ended up happening with the translators of the KJV, they're looking at the term Hillel and they're saying, okay, there's no other mentions of the term Hillel anywhere in the Tanakh, like literally nowhere. So the translators apparently, according to writings that have been done on the traditions of the KJV, and they said that the translators just didn't know what to do with that word. So because the Hebrew does not have there's no precedence for the word Hillel, except if you go into the root of Hillel, which of course is halal. Now halal is all throughout the Tanakh about maybe over 100 some odd times, but the term Hillel, other than Isaiah 14:12, it's never mentioned again. And so since the translators did not know what to do with it and how to really approach it, they deferred back to their the King James Version's primary text, and that is the Latin Vulgate. They went back to the Latin Vulgate, looked at how the Latin church fathers translated the term Hillel from the Hebrew, and that's where they find the word Lucifer. But the problem, of course, with Lucifer is that in the Latin, Lucifer is not a personal name. It's not a noun. A proper noun. It's not a term that's used as a name for an individual. It's written, as a predicate or an adjective. And so it's describing a concept. It's not saying this is the name of the said individual. That's, of course, in the Latin Vulgate. So again, the church fathers really were kind of confused on this. They didn't really know what to do with it. So, and of course, the proof that they didn't know what to do with it is they said, okay, oh, how thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. They say, oh, okay, well, yeah, the son of the morning, that's referencing the morning star, Venus. The problem, of course, with that is, and again, to prove that they just didn't know what to do with that term, when you go to the end of the book of Revelation, Jesus Christ is called the very same term, that he is the bright and morning star. So now the church fathers have kind of stuck themselves into a catch-22, because if Hillel is Lucifer, if we take Isaiah 14:12 on face value and say that Lucifer, aka Satan the devil, is in fact the morning star, and then we go to the final chapter of Revelation where it says that Jesus is the bright and morning star, then are we saying that Jesus is the devil? Now, of course, we can kind of go a few different places with that, but in all fairness, we can't say that there's a correlation there, because the Hebrew text, it's not referencing a supernatural being. Isaiah 14:12, in reference to Lucifer, is not referring to a supernatural being. And now we're going to get into the context of the text, of Isaiah 14. So I think, as we spoke about on numerous occasions prior to this, Isaiah 14, just excuse my lighting here, but Isaiah 14 is definitely, if we're dealing with the context, we have to remember that the verses and chapter arrangements in the KJV, these chapter and verse arrangements do not exist in the Hebrew text. In the ancient Hebrew manuscripts, there was no chapter and verse issues. Everything was divided by topic. So when a topic came up, so if a certain vision, let's say if the vision was about the Assyrians, the text would continue to go until that complete thought about the Syrians were finished. When that was finished, then you would see a break in the Hebrew manuscript, and then it would go into the next subject. But it wasn't chopped into chapters. What the English versions, of course, of the Bible, and not only the English, but the German Bibles as well, what they did was, by adding the chapter and verses, they did it without keeping in mind the context of the thought of the prophets. So what you really have here is Isaiah 14, the entire chapter, is technically the second part of Isaiah 13. So of course, this kills half the argument off rip. So I figured that what we can do is we can start at Isaiah 13:1, where the actual vision that Isaiah is getting starts at, where it begins, and then we can read our way down into 14, so we can get, you know what I'm saying, so we can get a superior understanding of what's happening in the text, and not just go off of the cherry picking methodology that we've been taught to use. So let us all go to Isaiah 13, of course. And if I can get the brother, which I'm sure will be a brother Iron Fist Barzal, we can get a reader for this so we can break this down.
All right, so this is the book of Isaiah chapter 13.
We're gonna start at verse 1.
Verse 1.
And we're reading out of the KJV, right? Okay, yeah, just for the, because I'm obviously most people are going to be more familiar with the KJV than the other translations.
So Isaiah chapter 13, verse 1. The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amoz did see.
So immediately upon reading, we're already seeing what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
This is about Babylon. It's not about,
right.
you know, we're not talking about Babylon the Great, which some people think is America. We're talking about literally Babylon.
Right.
The same Babylonians that would later on take our the southern kingdom into captivity or whatever have you. So these are the natural Babylonians that Isaiah is, of course, speaking against. Let's continue.
All right. Yeah, and the chapter heading for in my KJV says God threatens to destroy the Babylonian by the Medes. So
there you go.
That's
What
this is right there.
Right. That helps us out a whole lot now.
Right. So let's see. Verse 2. Lift ye up a banner upon the high mountain, exalt the voice unto them, shake the hand, that they may go into the gates of the nobles.
Mm-hmm.
I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. The noise of the multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, the tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
They come from a far country, from the end of heaven, even the Most High, and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land.
Now, I got to stop here for a second, because traditionally, this is one of the texts that many Hebrews, and of course in the past, have used as a reference to or as a prophecy concerning America, or not America per se, but the Europeans. Because they say, hey, they're coming from the far country, from the end of the earth, and under the heavens, the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. So naturally, they automatically think, oh yeah, this is talking about the Greeks or whatever, when the Romans, when they came and destroyed our land. But of course, verse 1 already tells us who we're talking about. Verse 1 is letting us know this is about Babylon. It's not about anybody else. It's not the sons of Yafet. It's not about Edom. It's not about anybody except the Babylonians. So this is, of course, another example, unfortunately, of errant cherry picking methodology, where we pick out one or two verses and we build an entire doctrine off of which, as we are seeing right now, makes no sense whatsoever. So this is clearly talking about Babylon, but there's going to be a country that's coming along to destroy Babylon. So let's continue. I just wanted to inject that point because it's a very popular scripture that's used to explain Israel going into captivity by the European, which is just not there. But go ahead, Aki.
Verse 6. Howl ye, for the day of the Most High is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty. Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Most High cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it.
Mm-hmm.
For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine.
Mm-hmm.
And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore,
and pardon me, just to inject this point here. Of course, when they're referring to Ophir, this of course is referring to Arabia, one of the districts in southern parts of Arabia that dealt with that gold is actually well known for. If I'm not mistaken, this is also covered in Genesis chapter 2, the gold of Ophir. So yeah, this is definitely this is like western or southwestern Arabia, Ethiopia for that matter. So just to have some little just to have a little piece on that term Ophir.
right,
So
right.
continue.
Isn't that where Solomon used to get his gold from too? Ain't that where Sheba brung her gold from? Where she brung
Yeah.
some gifts? Okay.
Yeah, Ophir was very much known for getting a lot of bread, and that's where you went if you wanted ultra amounts of gold. That's where you went.
And just to interject, and I'm sure a lot of people on the line, well, not a lot of people, but I know at least a couple of us have been taught that this is all talking about the end of the Western world.
Right.
This is Babylon, America. This is the end of Babylon. This is nuclear fire that we're looking at, and all these things, and that this is all future prophecy as far as end day prophecy type prophecy, and
Right.
not prophecy for something that was taking place right then and there. So just want to put that out there.
And again, and the problem, of course, with that, obviously, like you just covered and what I had covered a few minutes ago, is that all of this comes from what I refer to as faulty hermeneutics. Because because that's what you refer to as eisegesis, when we're going into a text and we're reading into the text preconceived doctrine. So if I already believe that that prophecies are talking about America, all it takes is for me to go into any prophecy, and if I see anything about any type of destruction of the land or the coming of someone to put us in a certain position of slavery or captivity, whatever like that, it's automatically equated with the European.
Right.
And of course, this is insane. We cannot do this. But again, it doesn't, we can, it's fine, because as we further, we read further, all of this is going to be eradicated.
Right. All right. Verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Most High of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger.
Mm-hmm.
And it shall be as the chased roe, and as a sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee everyone into his own land. Mm-hmm. Everyone that is found shall be thrust through, and everyone that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword.
Right.
Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished.
And what did verse 1 say this is all referring to?
The burden of Babylon, which Isaiah, the son of Amos, did see.
Okay, so we're talking about
burden of Babylon, right? This is the burden of Babylon.
Okay. Now let's find out who's coming after the Babylonians.
Verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against
America?
them. The Medes.
The Romans?
The Medes.
The Greeks?
The Medes.
The reptilians from another planet.
The
Okay.
Medes.
Okay, I'm just making sure because apparently we haven't been seeing this word before. I mean, the Medes is there. I see it now, but apparently we weren't seeing it 20 years ago.
Now, this is
Right.
interesting.
So,
This is interesting. And I'll unmute the mic for everybody else if they wanted to, chime in on this point. If that's okay with you, Chief.
nah, it's all good, bro.
Okay. All right, everybody, if y'all want to unmute your mics, if y'all wanted to chime in on this point, because this is kind of interesting. I don't know if this is very interesting because the Medes today are not being identified.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone were to make that prophecy and say, "Oh, well, the Medes are going to come up and do all this," right?
Right.
Then who are the Medes?
Well, I've been told that the Medes was Iran. That the people of Iran are the Medes, and
Yeah. Geographically
this is-
speaking.
this is who's going to get their nuclear program together. And the arrows that we're about to read about here shortly are actually missiles,
Yeah.
nuclear missiles.
Yeah.
These are, well, the area that's talking about is around Turkey, right?
Well, the Median Empire, it kind of reached into those areas, but the Medes were actually on the other side of matter of fact, if I can, let me see if I can pull up I'm gonna pull up a map real quick of the Medes.
Yeah, could you screen share with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So that everybody can see what's going kind of going on in that, because it's hard to. That's one thing that I had I guess a little bit of an issue with myself, reading the scriptures, is not having a map to read along with the scripture so I can see, okay, well, if Isaiah is here in Babylon speaking against Babylon, and the Most High giving him this prophecy to speak against them, who's these people that he's talking about? That's the Medes, or like later in his prophecies where he talks about a nation from the north, or flee from the land of the north, or what I'm saying. But how would you know if you don't know where Isaiah is?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So let me just let me pull this map up real quick here, just so that we can let me just need to expand this picture here.
Yeah, I'm really interested in how this is going to tie in, because I want to see who this Lucifer dude is.
Just bear with me 1 minute here.
These KJV chapter headings or something else, because it basically answered the question already. But we gonna get into it. But yeah, it already told me who they was talking about. And like you said, just understanding how the book that we read now is put together, and how you can't go into these and just be separating chapters all the time. Sometimes the chapter before it is very much a part of the chapter that you're going into. Right after that is just really a continuation.
Exactly. I'm having I don't know how to screen share it now. Oh, here we go. I got it. There we go. So this is probably as close as I can bring it up. I don't know why it's not allowing me to I don't know. Are y'all able to see it? Okay, so here we have. So we're here. This is our land right here. Well, at least at that time, whatever, Sinai Peninsula, Arabia. This is the New Babylonian Empire, which, interestingly enough, is occurring around, not too far past the time that we're dealing with in Isaiah. So here's the New Babylonian Empire. Euphrates River, Tigris River, Chaldea, Persia. All of this is Iran, mind you, over here. And here's the Medes.
Mm.
So now we're talking about, of course, right there below the Caspian Sea. So now this is where Media, of course, is set up at. But when they established their kingdom, when the you know what I'm saying, especially when the Medo-Persian Empire expanded, it basically took up all of this. Like, it was just parts of Asia Minor, southern Scythia, which ironically is where the Caucasus Mountain is located. You know, so all of this is the Medo-Persian Empire. So as you can see, here's the Babylonians that Isaiah is speaking of.
Mm-hmm.
Media. So you know, this is the Babylonian Empire, and their the capital of Babylon at that point is down here towards the joining of the Hiddekel and the Parat rivers, or the Tigris and Euphrates. This is so now when you talk about the kingdom of people from the north, these are the people that they're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
which would be north of this part of of Babylon, because all of this is the empire, but this is actually where Babylon is located, right here, Chaldea. So to the north of Chaldea, you got Media, and so this is the people, of course, that are now coming against the Babylonians, and that are going to basically bring the Babylonians down. Because we got to remember, at this point, there's no one greater than the Babylonian Empire. Everyone's bowing down to the Babylonians. So, and so now that we have that understanding, we go back to the text, and why now it says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them." Good, you can continue from there.
Which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it.
Yeah, the Medes are not trying to hear anything about payoffs. You know, because of course the Babylonians, if they feel like they can't win this particular war, they're going to say, "Hey, listen, let's work something out. Let's, you know, throw you some gold, throw you whatever like that." The Medes are not trying to hear any of that. The Medes have the same mentality that the Assyrians have. The Assyrians were very big on, they're not interested in money. They just want to conquer you. You couldn't buy the Assyrians off, and you definitely can't buy the Medes off. So they don't care about your gold. They don't care about your silver. You're gonna get this work. Let's continue.
Verse 18. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. The Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah.
Now, it's very important that we remember what that verse is saying about Babylon. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms. So there's no kingdom better than Babylon at this point. And what? The beauty of Chaldees' excellency. Let us remember that as we go forward.
Gotcha. Verse 20. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch their tent there. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there.
Yeah. So this is going to be a complete wipeout when the Medo-Persians, when they roll up on Babylon, it's going to be ugly. Babylon will never again exist. That's why after this period of time, Babylon is always referred to in a mystical sense. Babylon the Great. It's always in some type of symbolic way, because the kingdom of Babylon never rose again.
Wow.
Now, of course, there have been kingdoms after that have taken Babylonian, cues from the Babylonian way of governing, and in a lot of their, their sorceries and stuff like that, and have utilized it in their own kingdoms. But Babylon as a kingdom itself never rose again, ever. Let's continue.
Verse 21. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. The owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there.
Right. So now, of course, it's going to be such a horrible destruction of Babylon that it'll be just like some of the ghettos that you've seen in America, for instance, where when a home or a building is not inhabited, you start seeing animals actually living in these buildings. Rats is living up in there, birds, and got bird nests up in the attics of places, and wild dogs are living inside of it. So it's going to be completely uninhabited. The next time you see people walking around in Babylon, it will be the Medo-Persians. But the Babylonians, as a people, are going to be wiped out. Let's continue.
Verse 22. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged.
Right. So, of course, Isaiah is letting it be known, like, yeah, you might think that, it looks real good for Babylon right now. Babylon is, living lavishly. Nobody can touch them. Nobody can approach them. And it looks very good at this point. But Isaiah is like, basically, yeah, don't get comfortable. Those days are coming. And you might think it's not going to happen because you're still doing your thing and everything is all beautiful. But those days are not going to be prolonged. It's happening as we speak. So now, with that context, now we can move forward to the next chapter, because chapter 14, verse 1 picks up left off in 13.
And I just want to read this chapter heading again. Mm-hmm. It says, the Most High's merciful restoration of Israel, Israel's triumph in the fall of Babylon.
Indeed.
So here we go. Chapter 14, verse 1. For the Most High will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
Now, this, of course, historically speaking, because now we already have some geopolitical platform that we can go from. We've already seen the time period we're talking about. We're talking about Babylon at its height, in that the Medes, aka the Medo-Persians, are going to come in and bring an end to the Babylonian Empire. Now, what is this actually telling us? This means this correlates with what Jeremiah basically, now what Isaiah is prophesying, Jeremiah is actually going to prophesy as well, but he's actually going to experience it when they go into Babylon, into captivity, the 70-year captivity. So remember, Jacob, the children of Israel, went into captivity under the Babylonian Empire. When they came out, who did they come out under?
Persia. The Assyrians.
The Assyrians were long gone.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The Medo-Persians now.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? So
right.
Now, they're coming out 70 years after they go in. There is no more Babylon. It's now Cyrus the Persian and Darius the Mede. So the Medo-Persian Empire is now ruling when the 70-year captivity of Israel, of the southern kingdom, is over. Because at this point, the northern kingdom has already gone into captivity. They're gone. You follow what I'm saying? The northern kingdom, they're gone. They were gone in 722 BC. But now, with Israel with the southern kingdom going into captivity to the Babylonians in 586 BCE, and then coming out 70 years later, this is what, so 14:1 is now picking up on what's going to occur when these things go down. That, okay, Israel's definitely going to go into this captivity in Babylon, but even though Babylon's going to get destroyed, Israel is going to be given mercy. The Most High is not going to allow that destruction to pan over to Israel. Right. So the Babylonians, they're done. However, Israel is going to be fine. And that's what we're picking up in verse 1. So we can read it again.
So chapter 14, verse 1. For the Most High will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob.
Right. So now, of course, this is obviously again referring to when they're coming out of the 70-year captivity. They're coming out of the geographically, they're coming out of Babylon, but geopolitically, you know what I'm saying, they're coming out of the Medo-Persian Empire, and of course, they're going to be there's obviously strangers from amongst the Persians that are going to come with Israel out of there, which makes sense. They're the children of Elam, the children of Shem. So it's all good. These are extended family members, and they're allowed to partake in the partake in the worship of the Most High. So so of course, this is letting it be known that that they are going to come out. The Most High is going to show mercy, bring us out, set us back in that land, and the strangers shall be joined with them. But remember, it's these very same quote unquote strangers that actually wrote the dictate that allowed Ezra and Nehemiah to come and set the land back up.
Right. Under
so all of this works out beautifully.
Right. And this is under the Messiah, Cyrus.
Oh.
Now, okay.
Let's run from this.
Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Now, this was I learned this from quite a few people that the strangers that were going to be coming together with this was going to be, different nations were going to come and deal with us at this time. This was supposed to be a messianic prophecy of Israel coming into their land, and then all the strangers, whatever that stranger, of course, identified, in the scriptures is a little different how we say it. Strangers were going to be everybody.
Yeah.
And that's going to be joined up with Israel, the true Israelites, and we were going to be in the land. And this was considered a messianic prophecy. And when I say that, I'm not taking any stab at any of the messiahs at all.
Right.
But this was supposed to be the last and final deliverance. So how do you get that with the strangers that's coming out of it? Like, cause see, I was never. Again, that's one thing I didn't understand right there. Strangers, according to Israel, what does that mean?
Absolutely, good and good question. 1 second. Somebody just posed a question here. The brother just asked, "What is the time frame?" That's brother Andre. Can you just type in what do you mean by the time frame? You mean as far as when is all this going to occur that we just read in Isaiah 14:1, or which time frame are you referring to?
Shalom.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Shalom. What was you the time frame you was referring to?
What is the time stamp during this period? Because in my studies, I'm trying to gather the time, because if I understand the time, I understand the text better.
Right. Well, when this, when Isaiah, of course, is prophesying this, and we got to remember too, that Isaiah is seeing these things. He's seeing decades before it's going to happen. Because remember, this is the same Isaiah that was prophesying the destruction of the Northern Kingdom, and the Northern Kingdom destruction was in 722 BCE. So and remember, he was saying that within 60 years. You know what I'm saying? Within three score years, the Northern Kingdom and the Syrian king, they're all going to be just jacked up. That they're going to be destroyed. It's going to be all over. The Northern Kingdom is going to be done. We know that if he was prophesying of 722 BCE when the Assyrians were coming down, so you do the math, he was probably making this prophecy somewhere in the 780 BCE period, because he's saying 60 years from now, the Northern Kingdom is going to be done. 60 years. So Isaiah's seeing what he's seeing. He's prophesying from 780. Now, mind you, the Babylonian captivity doesn't even begin for another 100 years. Isaiah is seeing this so far off. Like he's seeing so far down the line at this point, he's not even alive to see it come to fruition. So as far as the time frame is concerned, now when he's making these statements about Babylon, we're still talking about before the reign of King Manasseh, because obviously he died, he was murdered apparently under the reign of Manasseh. So he's probably prophesying at this point in Isaiah 14, somewhere around maybe 770, 780, give or take. I mean, not 770 or 760. Don't quote me on those exact dates, because some of the time frames of the chapters, they don't give you very specific details as far as what year it was per se, but it was definitely not too long after the time period of King Ahaz. Because remember, King Ahaz, his prophecy is going on in the 7th chapter of Isaiah. So we could say maybe 10 years later after that, or maybe even 20 years. But it's definitely you're definitely still talking about in the early 700s BCE period. So he's prophesying in the 780, 770, 760 BCE. But what he's seeing is going to be maybe 100. Matter of fact, it's going to be like 150 years later, because he's seeing the end of the Babylonian captivity and the beginning of the Medo-Persian Empire. So he's seeing almost 150 years into the future.
Huh.
So if that answers the brother's question, but I see that he's
him and Matt dropped off. I don't know what happened.
Okay, so how is that going to be recording?
I don't know. It's still saying that we live, but there goes Brother Andre back. I don't know what happened to Matt.
Yeah, it does say live. So but did that answer your question, Aki?
King.
Okay. So so Isaiah, he's seeing this this burden to Babylon. He's seeing it so far down the line. This is the reason why in that that verse that we read previously, and I think in chapter 13, where he was like, hey, it's going to happen, even though the days may seem prolonged.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, he's seeing it so far down the line that they're like, what do you mean Babylon is going to be destroyed? Come on, look how great we're living. There's no one's going to come and take our spot. So the Medes, they're not even on the scene yet. The Persians are not on the scene yet. Babylon is ruling by themselves. So they're probably, they got to be looking at Isaiah like, who are you? What are these strange prophecies you're bringing? We're clearly not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? But he's seeing it so far down the line, and lo and behold, he doesn't even live long enough to see it. You know what I'm saying? But Jeremiah does. So that's the time frame. And of course, going back to that issue with the how we were taught that this was referring to the people, all the nations, and everybody was going to come together. Even though this is Israel's captivity, all nations are going to be part. This was the first All Lives Matter campaign. This is our situation going on here. Now they're saying, no, we want to be a part. Everybody wants to be a part, but we got to remember that that when we start talking about the strangers that are going to come from out of, and interestingly enough, that's going to come out of the Medo-Persian Empire with them. Isn't it interesting that occurs, that while that's occurring, the Samaritans, which are in the land when Ezra and Nehemiah get back there, what's happening? The Samaritans say, hey, listen, we want to help you build the temple and and get into all this worship with you. And what did our father say? You have no part in this with us. Keep it moving. So when we deal with this quote unquote messianic prophecy, we now have to kind of look at it and say, well, when did it come to fruition? Because we see that when the Babylonian Empire, when the Babylonian captivity ended, and we go into Ezra and Nehemiah, we don't see that attitude when it comes to the to the so-called Samaritans. They said, no, you have no parts in this with us. You will not help us build the temple and the walls or nothing. You're not going to help us notice anything. They couldn't even participate in the worship. So, and who were the Samaritans, of course? Now, the Samaritans were a multiplicity of various peoples that the Assyrians brought in, from the northern districts of their empire. Some of them from in Turkey. Some of them may have actually come from the island of Cyprus and Crete or whatever the case may be. But whoever these mixed people were, Ezra and Nehemiah were like, oh, no. You're not coming up in here. You know what I'm saying? And you're not going to participate in anything that we're doing. No. And right after that, they end up going back to the to the Persians and snitching and saying, yeah, they said we can't do this. And, so, but yeah, we were definitely told that it was a messianic prophecy or whatever that actually means, since, there's no, Christ is not there. So how can it be messianic, right? But you gotta excuse my lighting here, stupid lamp. But yeah, so yeah, that's the and I it's so funny when the brother Matt brought it up, because I sit back and I think about those days, like 1996, 97. That was the doctrine. That the doctrine was like, yo, it's talking about all the nations, the strangers. That's the whole earth. You know what I'm saying? But of course, we start looking at this and saying, well, it can't be the whole earth, because strangers are going to come out with us from there. And it says, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. But again, this can't be talking about the whole world, because the doctrine of it being the whole world assumes that this scripture is talking about the end times.
Exactly.
That's the assumption. The assumption is that, hey, Isaiah 14 is talking about we're in the days of America, we're in the days of the Romans, whatever. We're way into this part of history where now you have all of these crazy multiplicity of races and peoples and stuff like that. But since Isaiah makes it very clear that this is talking about the Babylonians of his time and the Medes of the time that's going to come shortly after his murder, then when we start talking about strangers, who then are we really talking about now? Now we're sitting there talking about the sons of Shem. Because there's no other people at this point. You have the Medes, you have the Persians, which was the children of Elam. You got the Arabians to the south. You're only dealing with Shemitic people at this point. So the only people that could be joining themselves to Israel at the time that Isaiah's setting up here in Isaiah 13 and 14, it could have only been the children of Shem. And possibly some Hamites, maybe, I don't know, maybe some Cushites rolling around here and there, or whatever have you. But obviously, for the most part, we're talking about Shem. But again, that understanding that we received back then, it all was premised on the idea that Isaiah 13 and 14 was referring to the times that we're in now.
Makes sense.
Well, but again, and it's like, listen, I mean, even though I don't subscribe to that doctrine no more, but I understand how it can work if you're making this prophecy to talk about nowadays. Because then it's like, well, yeah, you got all types of people nowadays. Yeah, I guess they can all come in now. Like, no, Dikembe Mutombo, not in my house.
Oh man.
Not in this house. But and that's how Ezra and Nehemiah dealt with the Samaritans. Like, oh no. You're not gonna help us build anything. So now we're in verse 2. Verse 2. So we've already seen the prophecy, of course, that Isaiah is not going to live long enough to actually see. But obviously, Most High did not let him down. The prophecy was, in fact, detailed, fulfilled. That mercy was given to Jacob. He came out got set up in his own land again. Other peoples came out, other Shemitic peoples came out, joined with them, and they cleaved to the house of Jacob. And so now we're in verse 2.
Isaiah 14, chapter 14, verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Most High for servants and handmaids.
Oh.
And they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors.
Oh, so wait a minute here. What's so what's happening with the Messianic thing now?
Nah, this is that scripture that says all y'all nations finna go into captivity right here.
Right.
Yeah. but that ain't got nothing to do with the Messianic, because when we say Messianic prophecy, we go to the verse 1, the understanding, of course. See, this is what I mean by cherry picking. We go up to verse 1, and verse 1 tells us what? That you know what I'm saying, we're going to come out of the captivity, we're going to get set up in our land, and strangers are going to be joined to us, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. That doesn't sound like captivity initially, right? That sounds like, hey, you know, we're gonna, they're gonna join to us. You know, we're gonna worship together. You know, kumbaya, and all is gonna be well. You know what I'm saying? Until you get to verse 2, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So how does that work out here? But of course, these things, of course, were not explained to us, because again, these are, the Persians, the Medes, these are still relatives of ours, but the Most High is also keeping in mind that, yeah, but you do understand, even though they are your relatives, they are your people, you do know that they were also your captives. They were kind of jacking you up there. So let's not forget that. The Most High is like, listen, they might be your brethren, and that's the reason why they're not going to be slaves. They're going to be servants, because law tells us that we cannot deal with them in that way. You cannot make a slave out of your brother. He can go into servitude, but he can't be a slave. So, so it's so funny how in 2 verses, 2 separate doctrines are established, and neither doctrine agrees with the other. The first verse is giving the impression that these people are going to come out with us, they're going to join to us, and they're going to cleave to the house of Jacob, all's going to be well. Verse 2 says something completely different, so now they have to say, yeah, that's when the nations are going to come into captivity. Well, wait a minute, but how are they going to cleave to us? And it doesn't make sense when you're looking at it through the lens of that old doctrine. It doesn't actually make any sense. But it gets even more clearer as the verses go further. So let's go to 3 now.
Verse 3. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Most High shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve.
Right. So the Babylonian captivity was not an easy captivity. People make it seem like, oh, it was just 70 years. It wasn't that bad. No, listen, any captivity is bad. When you're not in your land, it doesn't matter how good the master makes your jail cell. It's still jail.
Right.
You're not going home. So how good can it be? So, so he's letting it be known that, that we're not going to have any sorrow anymore. We're not going to have any more fear, and the hard bondage that we were made to serve, all of that's going to disappear. We're going back to our land, and we're coming back to establish our kingdom again. Let's go.
Verse 4, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased.
Wait a minute. Thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not talking about George Bush?
Mm-hmm.
No, not talking about Caesar and Vespasian and Titus. I see. Okay.
The Most High hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers.
Mm-hmm.
He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth.
Mm-hmm.
The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing.
Right. So all of the nations now, all of the other Asiatic nations, they're happy as all outdoors because they're like, yo, the Babylonians, and this is what Isaiah is seeing, of course, into the future, but the people are going to be rejoicing everywhere like, yo, Babylon the Great has fallen.
Mm.
The literal Babylon the Great has fallen, and everybody's happy. Everybody. Let's continue.
Verse 8. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us.
Mm-hmm.
Hell from beneath is moved from thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead from thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations.
So everybody is rising up to actually see the destruction of this great Babylon, the same Babylon that nobody ever thought was ever going to fall. Babylon is ruling because Babylon's already well established. And what Isaiah is seeing is not even going to occur for another 150 years. So we're talking about centuries of just oppression after oppression. So you can see why the whole known world at this point crying relief to see Babylon finally come down. Continue.
All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us?
So this is what they're going to say. They're going to see. So now this great Babylon, who no one thought could ever be toppled, the Medo-Persians are going to come and topple Babylon. And so the regular people are going to look at the Babylonian kings and the rulers in there saying, oh, you're one of us now. You see what I'm saying here? All they that shall speak and say unto thee, are you also become weak as we? Unto us, so like, oh, now you down here with us. You ain't so high and mighty anymore. You over here in the earth with us now. Tough now, you know what I'm saying, when the Medes rolled up on you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now let's get verse 11.
Right. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee.
See, thy pomp is brought down to the grave. Pomp is like arrogance. It's like just that, like I'm just that dude. It's like if you think about back in the days, when it was called WWF, with Macho Man Randy Savage,
right.
The song that he came out to was called Pomp and Circumstance. And so, and you remember how Macho Man, when he came in the ring, he had that crazy, like, I'm just that dude look, whatever.
Right.
And that was the arrogance.
With his long fringes and stuff hanging, he had his arms out, spinning around in the circle. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like he just knew, like, you know, like, yes, I'm that dude. You know, not even Hulk Hogan can see me. I'm just that guy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the song that he came out to was Pomp and Circumstance, that the arrogance, that real thick arrogance, and, you know, like, there's nobody on my level. Nobody.
Right.
So this is very important that we're seeing how this is going down for Babylon. Now, Babylon was Macho Man Randy Savage.
Right. Right.
And then the Medes is the honky tonk man. if you remember the analogy here. Yeah. I'm showing my age now, but you know what I'm saying, you know, nobody who no one ever heard comes along and takes your title.
Right. Hit you in the head with a guitar.
Exactly. It's over. It's over. Yeah, now you can sit over here and chill out with Dino Bravo. You know what I'm saying? and a bunch of nobodies. So You know, so it's very important that, you know, in verse 11, why it says thy pomp is brought down to the grave. So all of your arrogance that you had, it's now has done you nothing, because you're going down to the grave. You're going down to the destruction. It doesn't matter all of the pomp and all of the arrogance and all of that you've had. It's over. Now, let's get to verse 12.
Verse 12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou...
But remember, Lucifer, coming from the word Hillel means bright one, from the word halal, in the root word halal, which means to be bright or to shine. Mm-hmm. And so we understand, of course, what's happening here, because this is how Babylon was viewed. Remember, we were talking about how, you know, Babylon's glory and how they were so, and it's the same thing here. How you have fallen from heaven, O bright one, son of the morning. How have you been cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? And that's what the Babylonians did. All of the nations around them had to bow the knee to them. Egypt had to bow the knee. Assyria had to bow. The mighty Assyrians, mind you, had to bow the knee to Babylon. Bowing the knee. The Arabians, everybody bowing the knee. And now, lo and behold, the great and mighty Babylon has fallen. Let's go.
Come on, verse 13. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north.
Look at this. The arrogance was so crazy that he said, not only am I going to ascend into heaven, I'm going to ascend into heaven, but also I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. And of course, these are the analogies, of course, that are used in the books of Job to represent the children of Israel, as some people look at it, because we look at the stars of God, and it also makes mention of he will also sit upon the mount of the congregation. What congregation? What congregation? Analogy, of course, because all of this is you know, is just an analogy to show that they were going to place themselves so high, on such a high, you know what I'm saying, platform, that they were going to be higher than the stars. They were going to be higher than the congregations. You know what I'm saying? Everything that dealt with the Most High, the Babylonians were like, we surpass all of that. That's how, I mean, so we're talking about a theological, almost like a geopolitical Tower of Babel all over again. Go figure, in Babylon.
Right.
Right back again. I'm going to ascend.
That's how they get down there.
Yeah, that's how. Listen, man. You know, and remember, who were the Babylonians? The people that we came out of. This is the children of Arphaxad. We are the children of Arphaxad too. So here it is. We're watching our blood relatives go to hell.
Man.
Go figure. You know, it's like, yeah, shalom, Mike. See you on the other side. So fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, or, you know what I'm saying, O bright one, son of the morning, down to the ground and did weaken the nations. And so we saw verse 13. Now let's go 14 and go further down.
Verse 14. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High.
Straight blasphemy.
Right.
Straight blasphemy.
Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit.
Yeah.
They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? And
so yeah, this is so now. So, right, and this is the people are going to be looking.
I was like, why? I asked this question a while ago, like, why would they refer, you know, thinking that Lucifer is who we all been told that he was, you know, some angelic being, you know, some other, you know, supernatural being. So it's like, why would they look at him like a man? You know, like, did his casting down from heaven make him, you know, like a man? So nobody could give me a good answer on this, because they were coming from the same understanding that he is some type of angelical being. So it's like, you know, I mean, they gave me an answer, but it wasn't a very good one. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
and that's what happens, because it's like, well, if we look at this properly, we see they're actually talking about a man. So, in the first place,
Right.
talking
The
about
king
the
of
king of
Babylon.
Babylon. So,
Exactly.
yes, they're going to look at him like any other common man now. Like, you know, like, oh, this you the dude that been causing all this trouble, really? You know what I mean? So,
Exactly. And
so
that's what we're and so yeah, that's what we're actually seeing, and that the people are gonna look at them narrowly, like you know, all that crap you was talking all this time.
right,
Now you're one of us. Now you're not on
right.
the throne anymore. Now you're walking in the dust. And so yeah, let me holler at you real quick, dude. You know what I'm saying?
give,
And so that's what they,
give me
and so this is what they're seeing.
uh, verse 17. That made the
Mhm.
world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. All the
Mhm.
kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house.
Right. So he's saying that, yeah, is this not are they not, they're saying, is this not the man who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners? Now, again, all of this Isaiah is seeing a century and a half down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yet.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing. Babylon is still great. The kingdom of Judah is still flourishing.
Mm.
You said none of this has happened yet. But what we're going to see with Babylon, of course, especially during the time of Jeremiah and then finishing up in Ezra and Nehemiah, is that the Babylonians, they refused to let once again Israel go. In fact, had it not been for the Medo-Persians, which was another reason why the Most High said he was going to raise up Cyrus.
Mm-hmm.
Cyrus, the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Raise him up, because if it wasn't for them, the Babylonians would have never let us go.
Right. Man.
So much for brotherly love, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. They getting
Forget
down
about
like Esau now. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Oh yeah, he's all right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's crazy when we really start to look at this. Like, for the most part, it's been like a family feud of Shem's children. Nobody else has really been involved. Like, these are all Shem's kids fighting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Fighting and conquering each other this whole time.
Right. Now, mind you, the rest of this chapter, it pretty much just, it carries
Right.
on in
Goes
the same.
on to right. I
But
think we got our answer.
Right. But now, just to kind of cap it a bit, let's shoot down, because now after all of this that we're seeing, because we're still dealing with the burden of Babylon that Isaiah is seeing, let's shoot down to verse 28 to tell us when this burden was being written.
So this is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 28.
Yes.
In the year that King Ahaz died was this burden.
Done. That eliminates any discussion about it being referring
Future
to
prophecy.
anything.
Right.
We're now getting
prophecy. Right.
Right. We're getting straight context that this burden was written at the end of King Ahaz's life. But he's seeing it, it's a future prophecy. But we also understand that we're getting some context here. We're getting a context that what he's seeing, he's still seeing from the time period of King Ahaz. So this is a very early prophecy that he's giving. Because remember, King Ahaz was one of the first kings that he prophesied under. Isaiah 6, 7, 8, 9, and well, probably all the way up to this point, is the time period in which King Ahaz was ruling. So this is 780, 770, give or take. About 780. Let's keep it real. It's like 780 BCE when he's writing this down, because again, we now see that King Ahaz has died when this burden was seen. But now we've seen, so now when we look at Isaiah 14:12, this is why we see so much of doctrinal discrepancies with it, because this text was never read in conjunction with any of the verses surrounding it.
Right.
It never is. Does Isaiah 14:12? What is Isaiah 14:12 I'm talking about? If they don't have a Bible in their hands, and you say, "Hey, listen, Isaiah 14:12, what's that about?" They'd be like, "Oh, yeah, it's about Lucifer." Then you say, "Oh, okay, what is Isaiah 14:1 about?" I don't know, because they've never read from verse 1. So even in the chapter and verse scenario that was created by the Germans, even with that intact, many Hebrews are not reading it from the beginning of the chapter. So therefore, there's no context. So now what they've done is, of course, they've taken Isaiah 14:12 and they say, "Oh, well, it says Lucifer." Well, we all know that Lucifer is Satan, the devil. So, right. And we also know that Satan, of course, was a fallen angel, but actually that's something that comes about 700 years later. Because the Israelites had no doctrine of fallen angels until after the time of Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism became, go figure, from the Persians, the children of Elam. Zoroastrianism did not, it didn't become a world power religion until maybe 500 years after this burden that Isaiah is seeing. So one of the tenets of Zoroastrianism is that there are two gods in heaven, and that they are at war. Not to sound like Sister Soldier, but they are at war. And each one of these gods have their quote unquote angels. And they're fighting. You got the good angel, you got the evil angel. And the evil God, the good God and the evil God, and their angels. And they're fighting in heaven. Now, what does that sound like?
Christianity.
Revelation chapter 12. There was a war in heaven.
Right.
Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels. But this doctrine, of course, never existed amongst Israelites prior to Zoroastrianism. That's why you can't find any concept of fallen angels anywhere before the time of the Apocrypha. It's not there.
I have a question on that. Okay, we don't see any mention of fallen angels before the times of the Apocrypha. Mm-hmm. So wasn't it our people that wrote that? And were they at a same historical point with the, how do you say, the people, the Zoroastrians? I mean, is that why it was like the doctrines kind of got merged together? I'm real curious about the Zoroastrianism religions and philosophies, so I was just trying to get a better understanding.
Absolutely, excellent question. And the when I said that you don't go anything before the Apocrypha, you don't find this doctrine. I wasn't necessarily saying that the Apocrypha itself is the beginning of the doctrine, but just saying that the time period, when you start talking about 250, 260, 270 BCE, of course, when the Septuagint is now being translated and the Apocrypha, the books that were also in the Septuagint are being laid out, you got to remember that at this time, most of the world at this point had already accepted Zoroastrianism in different forms. The Greeks had already accepted it. The Romans, they had already accepted it. All of the peoples, they even was changing the names and saying, okay, we'll call it Mithraism, whatever like that. So they, the doctrine, of course, of Zoroastrianism, even though the religion itself ended up kind of fading off into history, but the doctrine survived, and it survived in all of these belief systems of that time. And all of them were heavily, heavily influenced by Zoroastrianism. Even some Israelites had also been kind of moved by it, because if you study Zoroastrianism, And there's some areas of Zoroastrianism that is very convincing. And the reason why it's convincing is that, again, these are Shemitic people, so you're going to see parallel. You're going to see doctrinal parallels with, within Zoroastrianism that you would find in the Tanakh, that you would find in the Enuma Elish, in the Gilgamesh epic. Certain concepts that you see in these texts, you're going to see parallels, because again, the people who developed Zoroastrianism, or Zoroaster for that matter, you know what I'm saying, he was of the seed of Elam,
okay,
the son of Shem. So you're going to see the parallels.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what ended up happening, of course, with Israel, is that there were some Israelites who at some point they started to kind of speculate and say, well, maybe there's some truth to this whole, not saying that the Most High is more than one, because we know Shema Yisrael, Yah Elohim, Yah Echad, the God's one. But what if there was another being that the Most High is warring against? Not on the level of the Most High, but what if, and they started kind of speculating on these things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like we know, from speculation, you get doctrine.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that we see today with Christianity. When you have Israelites who they go into Christian commentaries and stuff like that, and they start saying, "Oh, that's an interesting doctrine." Even though it's not in the scriptures, but that's an interesting doctrine. Next thing you know, they done accepted the Christian doctrine hook, line, and sinker. And they don't even know how they accept it. They're like, I don't know what happened. I used to believe in one God. Now I believe in God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. What the hell just happened to me? So, and this is essentially what occurred with Zoroastrianism, and Mithraism, of course, because that was the branch off of Zoroastrianism, and of course Mithraism was more specific, and Christianity basically snatched up most of the tenets of Mithraism altogether. So it was a very influential belief system, and some Israelites, of course, were caught up in it, just like there were some Israelites who were caught up in Hellenism and Greek philosophy. So that's just a reality. I mean, look at the Israelites who live in America today. Are we not caught up in capitalism? Most of us.
Oh, yes.
You see what I'm saying? So of course, it's not to say that it's a yeah, that's right, because they were evil. No, it's because when you're in a dominant society, and and the society, of course, is pushing a particular agenda, and you hear this agenda and see this agenda constantly over and over, day in and day out, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and decade after decade, it takes a very strong Israelite to stay untainted by the cultural nuances of the people. And that's what we were seeing, of course, in the 2nd and 3rd century BCE. We were seeing there were some Israelites who were looking and saying, well, maybe there was a Lucifer or a Satan in the sky, and maybe he did have angels, and maybe eventually God won the war and the angels were casted down. And so there were Israelites who started to write these concepts down. And so now you start seeing like books like or certain books of Enoch where you're like, oh yeah, see the angels and therefore all of this other stuff like that. And you begin to say, oh, this is scripture. But what you're reading is you're reading literature from Israelites, of course, who had been already snatched into Zoroastrian doctrine. And that's, of course, and most Bible scholars, most historians, they know this. This is not anything new. It's not a new doctrine. You're not catching it for the first time from Zebulon. This is, most historians already know this. It's just like when Israel came out of Egypt. They were the children of Israel. They had the law, but they just couldn't leave the golden calf alone. They had been tainted by Egypt, and it happens. It's whatever the case may be. But the one thing that we know is that we can't find, of course, the origin of the doctrine of fallen angels. You cannot find it in the Tanakh. Like,
wow.
It's not even in Genesis. Like people always talk about, yo, Genesis chapter 6. But Genesis chapter 6 does not talk about angels. When the scriptures talks about angels, so-called angels, the term malak is used. Malakim, plural. Why don't we find malakim in Genesis 6?
You said why?
Yeah, why do if Genesis 6 is making reference to fallen angels, why don't we find the language that would support that doctrine? If Enoch was originally a part of Genesis, as people are teaching, then the rest of Genesis should be correlating with Enoch. You should be able to see mentions of fallen angels somewhere else if Enoch was from the same strand of textual, the same strand of text as Genesis. But we don't find that anywhere in Genesis. In fact, the places in which they want you to believe there's an angel, you don't see them. You don't see the individuals who came to Abraham. It doesn't say that they were angels. It said that they were 3 men came. But there's no supernatural beings being spoken about in Genesis. And of course, that's the problem with trying to tie Enoch into Genesis, because Genesis knows nothing of that doctrine.
Okay, I see. So, Chief, where it's in Genesis chapter 6, verse 2, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men. Mm-hmm. I got it right here. I know from studying with, other people, it's
right.
The fallen ones. Those are the fallen ones.
Yeah. Now, of course, the question that has to be asked is, well, when they say the fallen ones, what does that even mean? Okay. Because what's very interesting about this was it's crazy, because when they say fallen ones, they're like, yeah, see, it's talking about the angels. See, that's what the text is talking about. But what's interesting is that the very people who are saying this, number one, they don't even agree with the Masoretic text, right?
Right.
They're like, no, the Masoretic text is jacked up. Now, mind you, the Masoretes are the ones who preserved the textual integrity here. So whatever we're reading in there, it's from the Masoretes, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But if the term fallen one, if that meant a fallen angel, then how come the text that the anti-Masorete Israelites, the text that they always want to use, which is the Septuagint, why doesn't the Septuagint agree with that translation as being the fallen ones, like fallen angels? The Septuagint says gigantes.
Okay.
What does gigantes mean?
Giants.
Sounds like giants.
Well, yeah, it sounds like giant. Yeah, and of course, we got to remember too that the term giant has taken on different images over time. So there was a time when gigante literally meant people that were popular. Like if someone who was like Shem would have been considered a giant in his days, because why? When you think about Shem, people are like, he's that old man. He's the only man that he remembers the earth before it was wiped out in the flood. What? We got to go talk to him. Think about it. The idea of knowing somebody who existed before the destruction of the earth. He was considered a giant in his days. But was he a literal giant? No, because the term gigante or giant, that's not. Let me see if I can get a screenshot of this. Let me pull up my etymological dictionary. So when we look at the term giant itself, different different understandings or whatever have you, and it meant different things at different times. So let's see if I can pull up the etymology. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. It just, all right, yeah. It's just basically saying the same thing that from Gigas, the Greek Gigas, usually gigantes, um, meaning a giant or an ogre, someone of large size, fabulous man-like people of enormous size. Now that's of course from the 1300s in the Old French. Now, of course in the Greek, the Septuagint, it does say gigante as meaning a giant, but of course the problem is there's nothing to connect giants with fallen angels. You follow what I'm saying? Like there's no actual, like if we look at the text and it says, okay, these are the fallen ones, these are the fallen even if we just say that these are actual fallen angels, let's go with that. What is a fallen angel? A fallen angel is a supernatural being that can no longer stay in his etheric existence, and so he has to come to earth and dwell amongst people and be like a person, like he's you're taking on a human form, and this is how you're able to quote unquote mate with women, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Septuagint says that they were giants. A giant and a fallen angel is not the same thing. And if giant is meant literal by the Septuagint, then the question, of course, is how did these giants mate with normal sized women? I mean, just kind of think about that for a second. I mean, 18-foot individuals, 13, 14-foot individuals, whatever the case. I mean, some of them were saying that they were nearly 20 feet tall, according to legends. If that were the case, that they were not only tall, but they were also just huge beings, it's not to be graphic, but it's very difficult to try to these beings could roll up on an average sized woman and say, yes, you're going to have my child. What? Yeah. I don't think no sane woman is going for that. So it's just, so I mean, just physiologically, it's not even feasible to think that these were fallen angels or even giants in the modern sense of the term, because on one hand, the idea of a fallen angel is not even supported by the text. Why? Because the text says what? That the sons of God. Who are the sons of God? Now, we say, well, it's talking about the angels, but that's a doctrine that you can only trace back to the books of Enoch. So once again, you're going to later books in order to prove an older book. That's backwards hermeneutics right there. So that's like me saying, okay, in order to prove that Mary was a virgin, I'm going to prove it to you in the Quran.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't go all the way. You can't go 700 years into the future and get a book from over there and say, yeah, see, that's what this was talking. No, you can't do that. No, you go to the older book and say, okay, let's see what the older book says without the influence of the later books. Let's go with this book. What does it say? The sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. But in order to understand what sons of God and daughters of men is there, you got to understand what was also going on in Genesis chapter 4 and 5, which is a whole nother issue in itself. But out that, the term Nafal only means something that has fallen. It doesn't say fallen from where. It doesn't say what has fallen. It just simply means something that falls. And when we look at the term Nafal in every other context in the Hebrew scriptures, there's never any reference to it being in reference to a person falling from the sky or a being falling from the sky. There's no references of this ever happening. That's why when we go to Genesis chapter 6, you know what I'm saying, when it says fall, you know what I'm saying, which they refer to as the fallen ones, it never says not only did they fall from the sky, but that they also, it says that they took, women, had children, whatever the case. Notice that it never says that the children that they had with the women were giants, or it says that they were men of renown. Mm-hmm. They were well-known people. It doesn't say that they were any kind of alien race or any, all these concepts that people are coming up with. And if they were fallen angels and they came into the bodies and they corrupted man, the question now we have to ask is this: were the angels not destroyed? But why were the daughters of men and humanity, why were they destroyed in the flood? Why did the angels seem to have gotten a free pass from God, if in fact these were angels? Because who was it that corrupted man, according to the book of Enoch?
The angels. Every which way, right? Listed all the things that they taught man.
Yeah, and, abortions and all this stuff. And it sounds fantastic. It's some good reading, but it doesn't line up with Genesis, because now you got to ask yourself: is this what type of God? If we're dealing with a God who is a just God, a righteous God, who deals with just weights, just measures, and just balances, why would he destroy the victims and allow the fallen angels to survive?
Right. These more intelligent beings that supposedly had all this, higher information to even teach man in the first place. It's like, so obviously mankind didn't know what they was getting into, but they got into it, and now I'm mad at them for getting into it, and I'm going to destroy them because I can't stand the way the world is now. But y'all are just going to be held captive, And some of y'all, like, Azazel and whatnot, we're going to put him down here and put some rocks on him and make sure that he stays where he's at. The rest of y'all are just going to watch your offspring be destroyed and destroy themselves. This is just what I'm recounting from Enoch. When you look at it that way, it's like, that don't make no sense. Like, if anything, the humans should have got a pass. Like, look, everything they taught you, don't do that. And if the Most High wanted to, he can just pull out one of them MIB sticks and be like, look at this light right here. You know what I'm saying? Redo your memory. Like, okay, forget all of that. And then y'all going to be destroyed for teaching them that. But yeah, like you said, it was basically the other way around.
Right. So this is what we have now. We're now left in a very sticky scenario in which now we have to question the integrity of God. Because think about this. Okay, the angels. Let's just go with the whole fallen angel concept. God is in heaven. Angels are there. They disobey him to the point where he's like, okay, you know what? There's no more place for you in heaven or whatever like that. I'm going to get rid of you. God could have casted these angels anywhere in the universe.
Right.
Throw them on Mercury somewhere. Just like, yeah, whatever. Right. Go to Mercury and burn up, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But you send them to the very place that the people that you created here, they get caught up in their madness, in these fallen ones' madness, and the fallen ones get a free pass, but those who are victims of it get destroyed in the flood. Mm-hmm. That makes you question the God that you say you believe in, because that doesn't sound like righteousness. That doesn't sound like something that the Most High gets down with.
Not at all.
I mean, because if they're going to be, if man is going to be destroyed, then the angels are going to be destroyed too. Everyone's catching this wrath.
Right.
Because they all played a part, but more so the angels, because there's a reason why you casted them out in the first place. They're wicked as hell. They're so wicked that you can't even be around me. So you know what? I'm going to send you amongst my creation, but I'm going to punish my creation for getting involved with them. it kind of, you know, again, it kind of puts your concept of God, you know what I'm saying, under scrutiny. Because if we're sitting here talking about all day about how the Most High, of course, is a just God and so on and so forth, now we have to explain that line of logic. And some people will say, well, no, God can do whatever he wants to do. Well, that's true. Mm-hmm. But God doesn't just do whatever he wants to do. God has bound himself by certain codes of morality. Mm-hmm. That's what separates him from the concept of other gods. Well, other God says, you know what? Yeah, I told you I was going to let you live. I'm not letting you live. I changed my mind.
Right.
God, the Most High, actually almost imprisons himself into a box set of morality so that it corresponds to the same laws that he gave his people. So it doesn't look like he's holding the people to a standard in which he doesn't hold. This is why it says that the people that, you know, that you have to be perfect for the Lord their God. He's perfect. You know, deal with just measures, just weights, so on and so forth. Why? Because I am a just God. So I deal with justice. So therefore my people has to deal with justice. Mm. And justice, to me, at least, doesn't sound like sending a wicked, a group of wicked angels, so-called angels, to the earth, corrupt man, get him in all types of, you know, insane shenanigans. And then once man has now been corrupted, the angels escape judgment. And the humans are now all wiped out. That just doesn't, logically, it doesn't sit well. But again, this is ultimately the origins. This is where you're getting, of course, you're extracting it from Zoroastrianism and Mithraism. This is what the concept of the books of Enoch are. I mean, even some of the names of the angels, you can tell these were not ancient names. These are names that made sense for the time that that the book was written in, because it makes references to concepts that did not exist in the time of the Torah. So again, Genesis, no mention of fallen angels. It says fallen ones, but fallen ones can be anything. I mean, think about it. And this we'll definitely touch on this when we get into Genesis chapter 4 and 5. If I'll give you an example, Romans 11:11. Yeah, let's pull that up real quick. Perfect example. And this again, this is an example of how sometimes, you know, when you have these, when you know, with the cherry pick doctrines, you know, if it's a true doctrine, it's, you know, I'm saying we should be able to apply it in other scenarios if it's in fact true. So, you know, so when we take the term fallen or fall, let's look at Romans 11:11. Where Paul makes reference to the children of Israel. Now, of course, this is in the Greek, but it's still the same concept. Let's yeah.
Romans chapter 11, verse 11. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Most High forbid, but rather through their fall, salvation has come unto the Gentiles, for to provoke them to jealousy.
So is it safe to say that the children of Israel in this verse, that they are fallen angels?
No. It just says that they fell.
No, but it says it, God forbid, but rather through their fall. I mean, Israel did fall, right?
Yes, it did.
Where did they fall from?
They fell from the grace of the Most High, and where they actually stood in the world.
Yeah.
You know, their position amongst the other nations. They fell from that. The same way we just seen Babylon fall.
Also, wait a minute. So Babylon didn't fall from heaven?
No, not literal heaven. They didn't.
So what? Babylon fell from what? A metaphorical heaven, the heights of their greatness.
They fell from the heights of their greatness. Yes.
Oh. So what you're saying is Isaiah 14:12 is not talking about Lucifer falling from heaven.
Nope, it is not.
And so if Lucifer did not fall from heaven in Isaiah 14:12, then that would mean that any writings after it that suggests that Lucifer fell from heaven would have to be based on a fallacy, would it not?
Yes, it would.
Because if Isaiah 14:12 is the root of the doctrine of Lucifer or an angel falling from heaven, but if the doctrine has been refuted because it's so obviously talking about Babylon, that means, again, any doctrine after Isaiah 14:12 that comes along and suggests a falling from heaven of any kind of angel or whatever have you, it's based on a doctrine that was faulty to begin with. That means that we cannot accept anything after that point, because again, this is the Isaiah 14:12. That is the key script. That is the script in which all doctrines of the fallen angel concept is based on. Because before brothers even knew anything about the Book of Enoch, everybody was pointing to Isaiah 14:12. But if Isaiah 14:12 has been refuted, then any text that is written based off of Isaiah 14:12 also is now refuted. Just by proxy, it's refuted. Sort of like, go figure, Isaiah 7:14, when it talks about the quote unquote, a virgin shall conceive. Once we found out that not only was it not talking about Mary, but it's not talking about a virgin at all, it's talking about a young woman, that means that any doctrine going forward that suggests anything about a virgin has to immediately be considered a moot doctrine, because your doctrine is based on a mistranslation. So your doctrine is garbage. And this is what we've now looked at, concerning the fallen from heaven concept, the fallen, Lucifer falling from heaven. We found out not only is it not Lucifer, or whoever we think Lucifer is, that not only is it not Lucifer, but it's also not an actual falling from heaven. It's Babylon falling from the height of their greatness, that they were so great and lofty that it was metaphorically as if falling from heaven. So now nowhere else in the Tanakh can you find anything to support an actual angels falling from the heavens. It's not there. So now without Isaiah 14:12, Genesis 6 really looks like a lame duck. Because Genesis chapter 6 assumes that you believe Isaiah 14:12 is Lucifer. It assumes that. So this is, of course, the backwards doctrine, unfortunately, that we've received, that some of us have actually received. You know what I'm saying? That hello? Okay. So this, unfortunately, this is the doctrine that we've received by some of our elders. Most High bless them, and because obviously they didn't go in trying to mislead anybody. They were teaching from the right, from the right spirit. They just had the wrong information. But everything that we're reading about Genesis chapter 6 and the Enoch, all of these concepts, these doctrines, they're all based on a faulty premise. You have a faulty premise, it doesn't matter how convincing your argument is. You based it on something that actually does not exist. So again, like Isaiah 7:14, once we found out that there's no there's no virgin there, that means it doesn't matter what you read in the first chapter of Matthew. It doesn't matter, because there's no scripture in Isaiah 7:14 that says virgin. And it's the same thing now with Isaiah 14:12. Lucifer, of course, now the doctrine of Lucifer has now been eradicated in that verse. And so any doctrine that comes along after that, still professing the concept of a fallen angel or angels, whatever, falling from heaven, also by proxy has to be eradicated because it's built on a faulty premise to begin with.
Okay.
If that makes, if that makes sense.
Yes, getting it now. So the giants that were in the earth in Genesis 6.
Mm-hmm.
So this is describing men who had exceptional abilities, like you said, the elder who lived before the flood, or people who were, I guess, smart and taught, others. Is this a description of that kind of giant and not this big? And who are those skeletons then of those people that they find? They digging up in these. Who are those guys?
Probably the same. Probably from the same source that dinosaurs come from too. That's it. I mean, now mind you, I'm not one who actually believes. Me personally, this is just my personal doctrine. I don't teach it as a doctrine, but for my research and for my vantage point, I think those quote unquote dinosaur bones, whatever the case, I believe that they're manufactured. And the only reason why I say that is for this reason. When I was in high school, and of course I was going to college, the whole thing, geology and these concepts were very big in my mind at that time. It was like, the whole idea of, dinosaurs and Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthal and all of these things, Homo sapiens and Homo sapiens sapiens and Homo erectus and all of these concepts were like really big in my mind as a teenager. Like wow. And then one day, you start thinking. And you're like, well, when you look at the dinosaurs, it says that the dinosaurs, of course, these massively large 2, 3, 5 ton gargantuan animals that allegedly live, because it's so funny. They show you bones of the dinosaurs, but they still list dinosaurs as a theoretical animals. That there's a possibility that they existed. So it's like, if it's a possibility, then where are you getting these bones from? So anyway, one of the things that made me start questioning this is saying, well, wait a minute now. These creatures were massive flesh, massive blubber. They were just huge creatures. And then comes the Ice Age, the alleged Ice Age. What's funny is that in school, they teach you that the dinosaurs and the woolly mammoths and all of these things, and the saber-toothed tigers and all this other stuff, that they died off in the Ice Age, but somehow man survived. Now, the problem with that understanding, of course, this is why it started being real shaky for me back then, is that, so you mean to tell me that animals who were meant to live outdoors with tons of blubber protecting their flesh and wool and all types of things, whatever, protecting them from the ice and the massive cold, that they all died off, but these little creatures called the Neanderthal, with very minimal body hair, very little body, blubber, body fat, they made it through the Ice Age?
Well, did man know how to make fire then? By then?
Well, that's something that this is the problem now. They're saying, oh yeah, well, they learned to make fire. Well, again, you can make. I can listen. If we're talking about an Ice Age, we're not talking about a New York winter. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about the Ice Age, where now you're talking, 70, 80, 100 degrees below zero, where allegedly the whole Earth just freezes. Okay. Even Africa freezes. If Africa freezes, you know it's crazy. So, so now everybody's freezing. So if it's that type of freezing, even if you are able to strike up a fire, are you gonna survive that type of cold?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? As a youngster, I'm sitting and thinking about this. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because they tell you that part of what helps you preserve yourself in the cold is body fat. That's why they say that most people who survive frostbite, like whatever, is usually fat people.
Mm-hmm.
Because their body is able to, number one, keep themselves relatively warmer than a skinny person because of the blubber that they have on them, but also it helps them live longer because their body is burning fat, which keeps them alive longer. So theoretically speaking, just from that understanding, man should have died off and dinosaurs should have lived past the Ice Age. So the logic of it just didn't make sense at the time. For me, it just didn't, something about it just did not make sense whatsoever. Now, of course, once I realized that the concept of the Big Bang, which they always tie into evolution, and evolution is tied into the whole dinosaur movement, when you realize that these concepts of the Big Bang and evolution and and even the dinosaurs, that these things are still listed as theory and hypotheses, then you got to start asking yourself, well, wait a minute. If something is a fact, if you're seeing something in the flesh, it's a factual situation in front of you, you can never call it a theory. Or you could never call it a hypothesis. So the question is how is it that dinosaurs are hypotheses and theory, yet they have bones? They have the fossils, allegedly, to say, yeah, see, here they are. So why is it still being referred to as a theory?
Yes. So
for me, and again, this is not, I don't go online like, yes, this is the doctrine, but from my perspective, I personally think that those bones and things like that these fossil records, whatever, that they are being manipulated, that these fossils, they're being presented in order to create what they've always tried to do, and that is to try to create a world that predates the God of the Bible. Because what do they tell you? They'll tell you that, the dinosaurs, they were around millions of years before man.
Yes.
But wait a minute, but you also told me that the dinosaurs died and man survived. So how can they have been around millions of years before man, but man and dinosaur lived together and man survived the Ice Age and the dinosaur died? See what I'm saying? It, once again, not really making sense for me. So again, it seems as if they made that possibly they're trying to create a platform in which that the God of the Bible, who they say is, he created all these things 6,000 BCE or whatever like that. But see, the dinosaurs, they existed hundreds of millions of years before. So now what does that mean? Then that means that, so maybe God is not really God. Because if this is the beginning of creation, if God created man and created all of the animals and all of these creatures, how can then what creatures was he creating here when all of these other creatures were already around millions of years before?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tactic, of course, to challenge the God of the Bible and then bring you to the God of evolution, Charles Darwin.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at these things, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not convinced. But again, that's just my personal, speculation. That's my, and unlike the scientists, I'll admit it. That's my theory. That's not fact. I don't know. It might be fact, but I don't. It's, for me, it's still a theory because, there's still a lot that has to be proven or disproven or whatever have you. So, but But yeah, so so just these concepts again, with the giants and whatnot or whatever have you, again, when you're dealing with giants sleeping with women,
right.
The one thing that doesn't come out of a union like that we got to remember this, those type of unions where it says, verse 4 of Genesis 6:4, where it says there were giants in those days, or there were Nephilim in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of Elohim came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same were mighty men which were of old, men of renown. Let's get the Hebrew on that. And I'll try to see if I can get the screenshot here. Well, not the screenshot, the screen share for that matter.
Well, we in Genesis, what, 6?
Yeah, Genesis 6:4, real quick, just so that we can kind of can y'all see the screen here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have in the Hebrew text, we have Ha-Nephilim, Hayu Ba'eretz, Hayamim, Hahem Wagam, Akre Ken Asher Yebo'u, Benai Elohim, Ha-Elohim, El Benot Ha-Adam, Wayeladu, Lahem Hema, Ha-Giborim, Asher Me'olam, Anoshe Hashem. That's interesting. So we have Ha-Giborim, which literally means mighty ones, from Gibor, might, that were from old or from eternity. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that they were like just so far back, because you got to remember too, a long time. I mean, a person, you can be an ancient one, and at that time we're talking about people who lived 800-900 years. So 2 generations, you were considered a man of old. Like, you're from almost 2,000 years ago, and you're just talking about 2 generations. So we see the term, of course, Ha-Giborim Asher Ma'olam, and then of course you have Anshe Hashem. Now, what's interesting about this term, Anshe Hashem, is first, this last term, Hashem, the, and Shem means the name or reputation or character. The same word Shem, which means name, character, reputation, what you're known for. So we see that the Shem. So you have the Hebrew definite article here, Ha, the men of reputation or of character. But what's interesting about this character is that it's in this word here, Anshe. Okay. And I'm actually, maybe on another occasion, we can actually do a study on these terms, the term that we have here for man, because there's a couple of different terms for man in scripture, and they all don't mean the same thing.
Wow.
Now, and I'll give that very briefly, just to kind of show you where this is going. And maybe at another time we can kind of go really, really into depth on them. The general terms that they use for men in the scriptures is you have the first term, which and I'll go from the lowest to the highest. The lowest man is this term that you're seeing here, Anshe, but the word is Anash or Enosh. And you've probably seen the same name in the in Genesis 4 as one of the sons of I think it was one of the sons of Cain, I believe. Enosh means man, but it means man in the lowest sense. The word Enosh actually means someone or one that is weak or sick.
Mm-hmm.
So it represented the lowest of man. So when you hear about evil men in scriptures, the term they use there is not Adam. They use Enosh. This was like the lowest of, Enosh or whatever, or Anash. This was like the lowest of men. Then above Enosh, you had Adam. Adam was considered the average man, like, a man of the earth. He was just, it's a very generic term. It represented, average man. Then you have the third tier of man, which was Ish. Ish meant, meant man, but in a sense of something more profound, because they say that the word Ish derives from the Hebrew word, Ayash, which is fire. That this was a very high level man, which is very interesting because nowhere in scripture is Moses ever referred to as Adam or Enosh. When it says that no man can see the Most High's face and live, the word that they use is Adam. But Moses is always called Ish. Like in Psalms, Moses, the man of God, is Ish Elohim. Moses was a different level man. He was not Adam. He was not anything on that level. He was something completely different. So that's why the scripture says that no man could see the face of the Most High and live. Yet, at the end of Deuteronomy, it says that what? Moses knew the Most High face to face.
Yeah, that's
because Moses wasn't like the rest of the people, regular men. That's why when he came down, his face had shown where he had to wear a veil. You don't get that from seeing just simply the back of God. That you get that from a direct intimacy with the Most High, and Moses was allowed to see that because he's never referred to as a man, as Adam or Enosh in Psalms, where it says Moses, the man of God. He's referred to as Ish, and Ish, of course, is one of the loftiest terms that you can get concerning a man. The only thing higher than Ish, they say, of course, is Elohim. So this going back to the text here, where it says Anshe Hashem, means that these were, still, these were men who were not, these were people that came from this union that weren't really, really top level men, but they were still men, who had reputation, that they were well known. These were people who were already, people later on in those, in Genesis, that they talked about these people like, oh yeah, remember Lamech, or remember Seth, yeah, he was a righteous one, whatever the case may be. This is what we're seeing in the Hebrew text here with the term Anshe Hashem. But this directly goes back to the issue of Seth and the children of Cain. And let's just to touch it a little something. Let's go to the previous I think it's chapter 4 actually, but go to chapter 4 real quick of Genesis. And what we want to do is we want to see, let's see here. This is after Cain, of course, God is, he knows his wife, which is a whole nother story in itself. But what we're going to do is we want to look at Cain's children. And then we want to look at Seth's children. So we're going to start at Genesis chapter 4 and start at chapter 4, verse 17. And we're going to read out through the rest of the chapter. But this is because I think it's very important that we look at Cain's children, because Abel has already been murdered. He's gone. He has no children. His line is cut off. So we have Cain. And then, of course, we have Seth, the replacement for Abel. And it's very important that we look at their children, because we're going to see a couple of things here, and this is going to take us back to Genesis 6. So if we can get Brother Barazal, I believe, if you're ready to tap that.
Just a moment, family. So, the book of Genesis, chapter 4.
Mm-hmm. And we'll start at verse
17.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Plug this. Okay. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehujael, and Mehujael begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begot Lamech.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah. And Adah bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such as have cattle.
So what's very interesting here that we're going to see with Cain's descendants, we're going to start to see the introduction of certain concepts that we're going to see later on in scripture. But right here, his son Jabal, or Yabal, which the word Jubilee comes from, Yabalim, you know what I'm saying? This is where Jubilee comes from. So Adah bare Yabal, he was the father of such who dwell in tents, and as such as have cattle. So we keep this in mind going forward.
So, verse 21. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ.
So now we have dwelling in tents, keeping cattle, and creating music, instruments, and all of these different things. This is now coming out of the children of Cain, mind you. Very similar name to his brother, Yabal and Yubal. Continue.
Verse 22. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal, Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah.
Right. So now this Tubal Cain, he is now someone, as you can see here in the Tosh, that he is the individual who's now creating weapons. The word latash, which they translate, of course, instructor, is one who means to sharpen, hammer something, basically shaping it into something. And is now creating weapons of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. So now we have music, we have
herders,
and now we have the invention of weapons and tools and things of that nature, which is very interesting. Of course, coming out of the line of Cain, So now we go to verse 23.
And Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold.
So, and that's another issue in itself. But Lamech is clearly like, hey, listen, I done killed somebody, and boy, did I kill him, because if Cain is going to be avenged sevenfold, then there's truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. But we won't get too far into that, whatever. But so now that's Lamech. Now let's see what we find in the very last two verses of this chapter. And this is because it's very important that when we read this, we're going to look back at all the other verses that we just read in Genesis 4, and you're going to see a clear distinction between Cain's children and Seth's.
Okay.
So now we're in 25.
Verse 25. And Adam knew his wife again. She bare a son, and called his name Seth. For the Most High said, She hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew.
So now Seth replaces Abel, because Abel's, his whole seed, everything is gone. So now she's like, I'm going to call him Sheth, for the Most High has appointed me someone else to replace Abel, whom Cain slew. Now watch this final verse.
And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Most High.
Now let's stop here because obviously we're going to stop here, whatever. But let's look at that verse here, because it says that Seth, who is the replacement of righteous Abel, has a son and calls his name Anash. That same word we were talking about earlier. It's the same word, as we can see, of course, in the here. What we have here. And let's go and we see Enosh. I don't know how they're gonna have it laid out in definition over here. Common people. I think if you go into, wait a minute, let me see if I can the root word. So we could see man, mortal man, person. If you go into, I think, Brown Driver Briggs, they also take on the task of illustrating how the word. If matter of fact, I should have actually got a screenshot of the book itself, but to show you that the word Enosh literally means a person who is weak, sickly. It's never, the term is very rarely ever used in relation to someone who is strong. It's usually someone who's weak or sick or whatever have you. I'm just trying to see if they even cover it here, which is why it's so good to have a Brown Driver Briggs, which I have one online. But they use the word Enosh, so Seth calls his son. But look what it says after the birth of Enosh. What begins to happen here that does not happen with the sons of Cain?
They start to call upon the name of the Most High.
Very interesting. So everything that the children of Cain was doing, it was all physical concepts. It was all worldly accomplishments. We see that Seth, of course, brings forth his first child. And what do we see immediately? That it is at this point that men begin to call upon the name of the Most High. Very interesting. Now, this going forward into chapter 5, when we start going into Seth's lineage from chapter 5, verse 6, all the way down, we see all of his, and we know the lineage of Seth because we obviously come from that lineage. But it's very interesting and very important why we're being shown Seth's lineage and why we're being shown Cain's lineage. Why is Cain's lineage given, considering that they never make it out of the flood? They're destroyed, all of them. That entire lineage of Cain is destroyed in the flood. But why is his lineage shown? Because on one hand, you have children that come out of Cain that are regular. They're just standard individuals. They're making weapons. They're making tools. They're doing all of these worldly things. And what's coming out of Seth? A lineage of people who are calling upon the name of the Most High.
Okay.
Very important. It's so easy to overlook this, but it's very important why the scriptures is pointing this out. Why is it important that Seth's lineage or Seth's descendants are mentioned as being the first ones to call upon the name of the Most High? If you're calling upon the name of the Most High, you of course now are dealing in righteousness. You're dealing with a spirituality. You're going into a realm that the rest of the people that are walking the earth are not touching on. They're not tapping into. So when it says that the wickedness of man had become so great on the earth, the question then becomes is, how did it become wicked? Because Seth's lineage was what? Was a bunch of people calling upon the name of the Most High. Cain's lineage is a bunch of people who are doing what? Building earthly things that you're like, okay, well, why do you need tools, and why do you need swords and weapons? Like, what's that about? And why is it that entire lineage was cut off? Like it was Cain's entire lineage destroyed in the flood. Why is it that only through Seth do we have Noach, his wife, Shem, Ham, Yafet, and their wives? Why is it that why is it that the lineage of Sheth is being preserved and is being extracted from, as far as those who are going to preserve life on the planet, yet the descendants of Cain are all being destroyed? When we say that the sons of God, the first thing that we're taught, of course, is that this is clearly talking about angelic beings. But scripturally speaking, is that really the case? I mean, consider Psalms 82. Let's go there. Now we'll come back to this in a second. Let me just X out of a couple of things here. Slowing my browser down. So I'm going to touch Psalms 82. And we're going to start at verse 1, and we're just going to read the whole 8 verses, and so that we can at least bring some closure to this issue of obviously of Lucifer and the fallen ones of Genesis chapter 6. Because again, if we're going to deal with the concept of fallen angels, and what does it mean to be a son of God, then we have to look at other scriptures that deal with this issue and see how it pans out along those lines. Because if Genesis 6 is to be understood when we talk about the sons of God, if we're to understand it as being angels, then we should be able to see correlating scriptures going forward using the same concept, talking about the same things. So we go to the most popular one, Psalm 82. Verse 1 through 8. Let's get it.
Psalm chapter 82, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
The Most High standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods.
Who is the congregation of the mighty?
Israel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the only congregation that the Most High deals with anyway. So, he's definitely not dealing with the congregation of the Babylonians. But it says he judgeth among the who?
The gods. He judges among the judges. That's what that should say.
Yeah, no, which is interesting because, of course, the Hebrew text, it says is more le asap, Elohim nitzab ba'adat, el baqareb, or beqareb, Elohim yishpat. That he's judging, that he judges el in the midst of, because be means in the, kereb means heart or center, in the midst of judges. Elohim judges. So he's judging among, or in the midst of, Elohim. So how is the Most High judging amongst the Elohim? I mean, how is that possible? Because we, of course, are referred to as that term Elohim. When the Torah says that you shall, that you shall not revile the gods nor curse the ruler of your people. Our judges and rulers in that law is referred to as Elohim, meaning that they have the authority of the Most High on earth. What does that sound like? You sure? So that he had that the judges who judge in the name of the Most High, that they have that same authority. So they're referred to as Elohim, the same way Moses had that same authority. Remember, it said that when you go to Pharaoh, Aaron shall be your prophet, and you shall be as Elohim to Pharaoh. You're going to be as God to the Pharaoh. So here we have Elohim stands in the congregation of the mighty. He's in our congregation. He's standing and judging amongst us. How do we know this? Because verse 2, let's get verse 2 real quick.
How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Salah.
So that's what we're happening. He's the Most High. He's coming amongst his congregation like, you're supposed to be gods. You're supposed to be in the position to judge in righteousness as I instructed you, but yet you're judging unjustly, and you're allowing the wicked to pay you off to give them a slide. What are you doing? Now let's get verse 3.
Defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy.
So the Most High is like, defend the poor and fatherless. Like, you jacking up justice over here. This is how you get back on track. Deliver the poor and the needy. I'm sorry. Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. So he's telling us to get back on our Torah grind, like you're wilding. Get back into these laws. So he is judging amongst us. He's judging amongst the Elohim, which are we. And I don't mean that in any spooky, 5% manner. But let's continue. Verse 4.
Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked.
Right. So deliver the poor and the needy. And there are those amongst your people that you have allowed to be taken under under the power and the authority of your enemy. What are you doing? Go over there and get your people out of their bondage. So let's continue.
They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course.
Everything is jacked up. Because why the earth, the foundation of the earth out of course? Because if the children of Israel is moving as savages, then there can be nothing normal about this earth we're living in at this point. When the children of the Most High are twisted, what does that say about the earth? If the righteous seed is not being righteous, then that means that the wicked is flourishing. So everything is just out of course. Everything. Now here's the key verse here.
I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High.
So I have said, you are Elohim. That is actually, and let me just so that we can be very clear on the screenshot. Yeah. Here it says, Ani Armati, Elohim, Atem. So I, you know what I'm saying? I have said, Elohim Atem, you Elohim, you are. Ubene Elyon Kulchem. And children of the Most High, all of you are. Hulkam. So what I mean, so if we are the children of the Most High, then that is to say what? Men are the sons of God, and the women are the daughters of God.
Wow.
We are his children, especially the children of Israel in the congregation that the Most High is dealing with here in verse 1. He's saying, yes, I have said that you are Elohim. You have the authority on this earth to execute my will. So again, when Yeshua made the statement about the Pharisees that they sit in Moses' seat, you see what he was getting at. Like, listen, they have authority. Therefore, if they say, hey, go over here and wash your hands before you eat, ask no questions. Go wash your hands. It's not for others. It's not for debate or nothing. They have the authority, the same authority that I have. Like, just like I say, if I say, hey, do my will, so on and so forth. Well, if they say do their will, go do it too. Why? Because we have it right here. I have said ye are Elohim, and all of you are children of the Most High, all of Israel, sons and daughters of the Most High. But let's see what happens when we don't fulfill our part of the covenant. Verse 7.
But ye shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes.
Whoa! What? Say that again.
But ye shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes.
Oh, what prince fell? What is this talking about? So this has to mean something quite different, seeing that we know that Lucifer is not an actual Satan, and he didn't fall from heaven. That's talking about Babylon. So what does it mean that we're going to die like men and fall? And the word, as you can see, the word that they use it here is what?
The fall.
Fallen angels. Oh, but no. But see, the fall means fallen angels, right?
Yep.
Oh, it's got to mean fallen angels. I mean, it says Nephal.
Or Nephilim.
Fallen. Yeah. So we're going to fall like one of the princes. So Akain Ka'adam Tamuton Uka Echad Haserim Tiplu. But you will die like Adam and fall like one of the princes. So we're clear on a couple of things here. That if this was talking about, if the idea of falling, if it implied being an angel falling from heaven, then this would say or imply that all of the children of Israel, men and women, are also fallen angels. I mean, if we're going to stick to the script of Nephal, meaning, yes, it means fallen ones. Okay, well, then that means that when we went into captivity, we became the fallen ones as well. Have we not fallen from our, like Babylon, have we not fallen from our lofty position that the Most High has given us?
Indeed.
Yep.
I mean, now consider this. Consider the fact that the king of Babylon's, in his own pomp and arrogance, he says, listen, I'm going to be like the Most High. I'm going to exalt myself up here. The very thing that he was shut down for, the Most High gave the children of Israel for free. I have said, you are Elohim. You are on this level. The Babylonians? No, not quite. Because they're going about it all wrong. See, if they would have came through you, if they would have came through us, all would have been well with them. But since they wanted to do it on their own, no, they're going to get destroyed. But the Most High is telling us what? That we are Elohim. We have that authority if we are keeping the covenant. That's why when we were in the law and keeping this covenant, none of our enemies could ever come against us. No one could come against us. Nobody. And as soon as we went away from our covenant, what happened? We became the fallen ones. We fell from our lofty position that the Most High gave to us in that covenant, where he says that we would be the head and all the nations would be the tail. So if we are now in that same position, wouldn't that imply that we are the fallen ones?
Yep.
Would that also mean that we are fallen angels?
No.
But so you see what I'm saying. So this is what I'm saying. Oh, wait a minute. Brother Matthew said my computer battery died, so the call closed, but the stream is probably still going on. One of you guys have control over the live stream.
I don't know who that possibly could be.
I don't know, but we'll just finish up this particular and kind of, but just to wrap up that point though, that Isaiah 14:12, the whole concept of Lucifer, that's been out, and then of course with Genesis chapter 6, we start seeing this correlation between Psalm 82 verse 1 through 8, and then going back to Genesis 5, not actually Genesis 5, but going forward. But what we saw in Genesis 4 was what? The lineage of Cain, the daughters of man, versus the children of the children of Sheth, which were now those who are calling upon the name of the Most High, the sons of Elohim. And what we now have, of course, in that text in itself is to show that through those unions, you have what? Let's go back to 6 real quick. So when we right here in verse 1, and what's very interesting is that it doesn't actually establish anybody falling out of the sky in verse 1, because most people go to verse 4 and that's pretty much it. But when you go to verse 1, it says, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took the wives of all which they chose. Notice at this point, there's no mention of anybody falling from heaven or falling at all. It just simply says what? In that after the end of chapter 5, let me back up the end of chapter 5 because it's a continuation. So here, after Lamech, after the whole lineage of Sheth is established, and we come down to the days of Lamech and Noach, I'll start at verse 28, Genesis chapter 5, verse 28, and it says, and Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son, and he called his name Noach, saying, this same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because the ground which the Lord had cursed. And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Then we go to 6, which is a continuation of the text. And it says, and it came to pass. So it came to pass after all of this, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them. So it's very important that we remember what's being laid out on the platform for us. We first got a glimpse of Cain's descendants. Then we got a glimpse of Sheth's descendants. And then chapter 5 gives you the entire descendants of Sheth to lead us up to the point of 6:1, where it says, and it comes to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born unto them. So at this point, the only thing that we have to base all of this on is what? The children of Cain and the children of Sheth, they are now mating. They're now multiplying. And verse 2 says that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair. So these individuals who called upon the name of the Most High, which is very interesting because in the pseudepigrapha, in the books of Adam and Eve, it actually says that almost verbatim, that the children of Sheth, which they refer to as the sons of God, that they were told not to go and deal with the offspring of Cain, and that the children of Sheth dwelt on like a mountain and were told not to go down to the flats, whatever like that. Don't go down there and deal with the descendants of Cain. It will not go well for you.
Right.
And they end up going down there, and one thing led to another. So, but that's another story in itself with the pseudepigrapha. But so it says that the sons of the Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Most High said, check this, very interesting, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for he also is flesh. So man is something other than flesh. Are we catching this? And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh. That means that when he says that I'm not going to always deal with man, he's saying that, yes, man is a lofty created being, but he's also flesh. And my spirit is not going to always strive with him. Notice that it's not making any mention of him striving with angels. He's striving with man. For that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Then verse 4 says, there were fallen ones in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of Elohim came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. Now, all of this makes, of course, perfect sense going forward, because we know that when these two lineages began to merge with each other, the children that came of them, what were they? They were wicked as hell. The children of Sheth were those who called upon the name of the Most High. The children of Cain obviously were not calling upon, the name of the Most High. They probably didn't care about the Most High or whatever have you. And so now you have a situation in which it says in verse 5, and Elohim saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. Why is the angels not being mentioned here? This would have been the perfect opportunity to say, hey, yeah, you know, those damn demons that fell, that I casted down, they just corrupting everything. But we're constantly seeing the wickedness of man increasing. Why did the wickedness of man increase? Because we just saw two lineages. We saw one lineage that calls upon the name of the Most High. We see another lineage that is only concerned with creating all manner of things that comes into his mind. That's why it says here in verse 5 that it says what? That every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continuous. So everything that he began to create at this point was all based on some type of wickedness, like come up with new ways to kill people, or, you know, just anything, just everything was evil that's coming out of their heads. Out of their heads, everything was evil. So again, we got to stop and say, well, where are the angels in this particular scenario? Because the scenario itself doesn't even hint at angels. There's not even a hint. There's not even a little piece where it says, you know what, that actually does sound like what we just read in Enoch, or we don't see anything about that. So we have to stop and say, well, how did the writing of Enoch become so developed to the point where they were able to extract nothing in this text? There's nothing in this text that even leads in that direction. How they were able to look into this text and say, right there, verse 4, there were giants on the earth in those days. Nephilim. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands of angels came out of the sky. I mean, how do you go from that to fallen angels? Because again, the fallen angel concept did not come out of the scriptures. It came out of 3rd century Zoroastrianism. And the Israelites, of course, unfortunately picked up on it and began to, deal with those concepts and trying to figure out whether they were valid. Some Israelites felt that they were valid. Some Israelites felt that it was straight witchcraft, which is why, if you notice, the books of Enoch were never sanctioned or were never accepted, even by the Pharisees. So,
question, shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
The thing that I don't understand is why do we go and try to gather extra knowledge and we can't understand what we have?
Oh, well, because and that's another good question. That's a great question. And what you see, of course, it's all, the idea of having secret knowledge. This is where, of course, occultism comes into place. Mystery school systems, the mystery schools of Egypt and, the Kabbalistic schools of all of these concepts, because it plays on the imagination of people, so that when people start thinking that there's some secret doctrine that only a few people know, it gives them a sense of authority. Like, hey, I'm somebody. Look at me. I happen to know one of the secret doctrines. And again, it gives people a false sense of knowledge, because it's a knowledge base that they're now being convinced was extracted from Genesis. And then you come to find out that no, Enoch wasn't extracted from Genesis. And in fact, it was just written in the 2nd century. So the idea that, the concept and the idea of having secret knowledge or knowledge that people don't possess themselves is very intriguing to people. A lot of people fall hard body into those type of doctrines. I mean, I was one of them. I was I was all up in the Kabbalah, 20 years ago. I mean, heavy Kabbalah stuff, because you thinking like, yo, what I'm saying, this is high science that none of these other brothers and sisters got. And it gives you a little sense of, like, yeah, I'm special. I know some things that nobody else knows. And then you come to find out, well, no, actually, a lot of people know it. You're not special.
Like Freemasonry.
Precisely. All of those mystery school systems, Rosicrucianism, Shriners, all of that. Yeah. It's all the same concept. So yeah, that's what ends up happening. And again, I don't say throw away the Book of Enoch, because it was still written by our people. Whether it was off or not is beside the point. But what it does is that it shows you, just like the book of Philo, the complete works of Philo, it shows you the end result of taking the ways of the nations and trying to infuse it into Hebrew thought. So it's a testimony. So I think that the Book of Enoch should be kept, but as a testimony to what happens when you step outside of the Torah.
Okay.
when you step outside of the instructions that the Most High gave us, and you're trying to infuse other doctrines, whether it be Zoroastrianism, whether it be Orphism, or whatever have you. So, I hope that kind of, because I know, I mean, there's a whole lot more that we could kind of touch on, but I just, obviously for, the sake of time. Wow, 131. I hope that that kind of touched everything enough to where there's at least some level of where we can kind of maybe build on it some more going forward, but that it kind of lays out a decent platform. I hope I was able to lay that out.
Yes.
Okay. Well, praise the Most High for that. So yeah, I mean, it just just to bring that point to a close, that these are very, like I said, a lot of these concepts, they're concepts that derive from from Zoroastrianism, Mithraism, and our people, they picked up on it just like we always do. I mean, this is what we do. We left Egypt. We had to take the golden calf with us. We went into the land of Canaan. We picked up Baal. You know what I'm saying? We went into Babylon. We started playing with the zodiac. You know what I'm saying? We came out of Persia. We started looking at Zoroastrianism. Went into Greece. We put on the Greek hats. And exercising naked. Everywhere we went, you saw elements of our people that started falling victim to insane doctrines. And of course, fortunately for us, there was always the truth speakers in the midst of us that helped get us back on point on some level. Whether it was the Pharisees, whether it was Ezra and Nehemiah, or whatever. But there was always those who said, "Okay, no, we're not going to be doing this paganism, no." And so that's pretty much what we're dealing with on that issue.
Okay.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything that they wanted to add on to it.
So you saying that Lucifer is not a fallen angel? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah. Let's make it very clear. Lucifer is not a fallen angel. And the funny thing about it, again, it's not even in the very text that the term Lucifer that it comes from, out of the Latin Vulgate. It's not even written as a proper noun, meaning that it's not written as if it was a person. It's written in in the form of a predicate. It's not even capitalized in the Latin Vulgate. It's showing you that it's not talking about a person, it's talking about a concept. So even in the Latin Vulgate, and this is the text this is the reason why you don't see Lucifer anywhere else in the scripture, because the Latin Vulgate, they're like, okay, we don't really know what the hell to make of this word. So instead of just saying, bright one, we'll just say Lucifer, because again, Lucifer itself means what? Illuminated one.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone who is illuminated. So what has happened is that the term Lucifer, we've been convinced that Lucifer is some evil. No, it's just a descriptive term. It's talking about someone who has been illuminated with something, whether it's knowledge or whether it's whatever, but someone who has been illuminated. So we don't get thrown off by the term. Like, now, of course, I'm not saying, hey, let's go around and refer to ourselves as Luciferians. But no, I can mean that we're enlightened, man. Yo, we know the truth. Like, yeah, no doubt, but let's not use that term, though. People be like, yo, man, them dudes just devil worshippers. But so the term, again, it's a descriptive term to represent someone who shines bright, or who gives off a certain a light or whatever have you, or or a glow or what have you. And that's all the term in the Latin really meant. It was never written in the Latin Vulgate as an actual person, which is very interesting because you would think that the term Lucifer would have been used all throughout the scripture. Like, why? You see what I'm saying? I mean, why is it that Lucifer only appears in Isaiah? You would think that Lucifer would be all throughout Revelation. Like, that's the perfect book for Lucifer to be popping his head up in, like, yeah, I'm the great Lucifer, you know what I'm saying? But you don't even see him there because you actually don't see him anywhere because he's actually not in Isaiah 14:12. Hillel's there, but even Hillel, it's a descriptive term to describe how shiny and bright and full of glory that the Babylonians believed that they were so lofty that they were like, yeah. So the Most High is like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you're gonna fall. You're gonna fall from your lofty position. Oh glowing one. You know what I'm saying? You're looking like Shogun. You got that glow on you. Like, yeah, but you're going down.
Right.
So, and so that's really what. So not only is the issue Lucifer, the term Lucifer, easily refuted grammatically, but just the context. And we've read the context. We didn't even have to go to chapter 13. We could have started in 14, where it makes it very clear that this is talking about Babylon, and it even says it. So once you say that this is in reference to the king of Babylon, and that Isaiah is addressing a king, a future king of Babylon from about 150 years later, that already should tell you right there, okay, we're not even dealing with a Lucifer character here.
So this leads me to something else, and I don't know if we got time for this, but it might be something quick, with the understanding that we have now. Ezekiel chapter 28.
Oh, another great ties right back in.
Exactly, because of course, we've been told that the king of Tyrus, or the prince of Tyrus, was Lucifer. This is him in the garden. When we get down to where is it? Verse. Yes. Verse 12. Well, I guess we start at 11. Moreover, the word of the Most High came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Most High Power, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of the Most High. Every precious stone was thy covering. The sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou was created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of the Most High. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created till iniquity was found in thee. So, of course, we're told that this is Lucifer before he became Satan. When he's first created, he was made perfectly. He was the angel of what I'm looking for, of music and everything. That's why the music is so jacked up these days, because he runs that too. So it's just that's why he masked about it, because here we are back again. This is who we was told. It's like, well, he wasn't talking to the physical king, the man. He was talking to the spirit that was behind him, which is Satan.
Yeah. Now, of course, the problem with that is that, lo and behold, he is talking about the physical king in verse 12. Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus.
Right.
Again, we can't duck and dodge, hermeneutics. If we're talking about the king of Tyrus, then we're talking about the king of Tyrus.
Let's talk about the king of Tyrus.
I mean, it's really not. It's not rocket science, And some of them, listen, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. Oh no, that there's not a spiritual element. Of course, there's a spiritual element. I mean, people are wicked because their spirit is moving them in a wicked manner. So obviously, we have to deal with that element. But we're not going to make it seem as if Ezekiel is not really talking about the king of Tyrus, that he's really talking about Lucifer, whatever like that, because Lucifer has already been debunked in Isaiah 14:12. Mm-hmm. So, but what I was saying, that anything now going forward,
right?
You can't, because it's already been debunked. So they can sit here and say, well, yeah, but it says in the garden, yeah,
right. I mean, they go through the whole thing, and it is because it's the words that the Most High gave to Ezekiel is some very interesting words, and if you just don't go past the fact that yes, there was a place called Eden. You know what I mean? Because it says thou has been in Eden. It don't say you was in the Garden of Eden, because there was a separate spot in Eden that was the garden. It says you've been in Eden, the Garden of the Most High. So the whole land of Eden was the Garden of the Most High. There was an actual Garden of Eden, though. There was a Garden of the Garden, so to speak. You know what I mean? So, because they'll say that here you go, he was the serpent, which we got into that. That's a whole nother thing. You know what I mean? So,
right. But even with this, even with the whole Eden situation, but nothing even in the Garden of Eden, even in the text of Genesis chapter 2 and 3, you still don't find anything about a fallen angel. And the funny thing is, that's where you should have seen right there. The quote unquote serpent is there. So right there, somewhere between chapter 1 and the end of chapter 2, there should have been some text to say, oh yeah, and by the way, there were some deities that were thrown out of heaven, and now they're on the earth, and you'll see them in chapter 3.
Right, and that's what I was saying. That's why when I was asking about that, the whole the war that's in heaven in Revelation is like, and in the creation of Adam, and this is the reason why Lucifer was kicked out of heaven in the first place, and he took 30 of the angels with him. It's like, so what's the timeline like? Was we talking about the spirit of Adam being created and him not bound down to that? Because why would he be down here in the garden still having this same problem? You know what I mean? When he comes as the serpent, so again, it wasn't lining up.
Absolutely, and quite naturally, it would not line up. I mean, even in this text here, even in the Ezekiel 28 text, many Hebrews they will focus on verse 13. That's the real focus of their of their interest here. They'll skip verse 11 and 12. Like, okay, they don't even care. It says, moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me. Like, oh, no, who cares? Who cares about the Lord? Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus. So they're completely just overlooking that as well. They get to verse 13 and he was in the garden. But see, this is all metaphor. You want to see what you want to, here's the proof that it's all metaphor. Look at the very next verse.
So verse 14, thou art the anointed cherub that covereth.
Whoa. Let's stop here for a second. Anointed cherub. Let's get the quick little interlinear. See what's happening here. For thou, eight karub mim mashach. Anointed. from anointed. From the word, the letter mem, which is the prefix from or for, and mashak, anointing. Let me just click on that real quick just to make sure that we're not sitting here freestyling. What is that? Why is that there? Why is mashak there? Why is mashak there? Anointing. Interesting. But we're not going to get, we're not going too deep into that. But thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. When was Lucifer the anointed cherub that covereth? Covereth what?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Are we talking about the cherub that protected the garden so that the man and the woman could not get back in? Is this the anointed cherub that covered the Ark of the Covenant? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Right.
Either way, why is Lucifer, quote unquote, doing these anointed things? Let's continue. After covereth, we have what? And I have.
And I have set thee so. I'll get back in here. And I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of the Most High. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire.
Where is the holy mountain of God?
Sinai.
Satan was was upon the holy mountain of God.
I don't remember reading that nowhere.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm saying? If he was, I didn't read. I missed it. I didn't read about that.
Right. So I mean, so now if we're taking this, because now, of course, the way that the way that the doctrine, of course, has been given to us, we have to take all of this literal because we just finished taking 13 literal. That was in the Eden, the Garden of God. So if we take all of this literal and say, yeah, see, it's talking about Satan. You know what I'm saying? He was created, whatever the case would be. He was in the garden. Okay. Well, then now, he then was literally upon the holy mountain of Elohim and was walking up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. So Lucifer was on Mount Sinai when the law was given? What are we talking about? We'll let that marinate.
Yeah, because I don't know.
Yeah, no, we'll let it marinate for a second. So we go to now verse 15.
Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created, till iniquity was found in thee.
Continue.
By the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast said, therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of the Most High. And I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire.
Now, let's go back up to the beginning of verse 16, where it says, by the multitude of thy merchandise, they have filled the midst of you with violence. Who is they?
Yeah, who is they?
And because obviously thee is still referring to this quote unquote,
cherub,
Lucifer, cherub,
right.
or whatever, which really is, of course, is the king of Tyrus. But it says, by the multitude of your merchandise, they have filled the midst of you with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore, I will cast you as profane out of the mountain of God. Well, again, what are we talking about? The mountain of God, and what is Lucifer doing there? I mean, if he was casted out of heaven, surely the Most High would not be allowing Lucifer to travel up and down through the mountain through his mountain as he's giving the law. Like that scene doesn't even sound right. It doesn't sound right at all. But again, we got to remember something about Ezekiel, and it's the same thing that we have when we're reading Revelation. It's all symbolic. most of what Ezekiel's talking about, he's speaking of it in visions. Ezekiel 37 about the valley of the dry bones. Is anything in that chapter literal?
No.
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 No, because listen, because if it was literal, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. If it was literal, we would be skeletons and our bones would be on the ground and our bones would be shaking together. You know what I'm saying? You know, like, hey, it was good.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. That's what we would be doing. Our bones would be clacking, whatever the case may be, and we would be standing up, and all of a sudden, so obviously it's not literal, although the outcome was quite literal in the sense of, the end result, but the methodology was all symbolism to illustrate our spiritual condition. That's why he says he saw these bones and he was like, lo, they were very dry. And the Most High said, hey, can these bones live? And Ezekiel was like, thou knowest, yeah. Like, hey, I can't call it, but that's how dry they were. So all of this all of these is, is symbolic terms to represent the characters being addressed. So just like Ezekiel 37 is dealing with the character of, of the children of Israel in their quote unquote resurrection stage. Now we're looking at Ezekiel 28 that is referencing the king of Tyrus and his state. That at one point in time, yeah, you were, on the money. You were, at the top of your game, whatever like that. But guess what? But you fell off. Iniquity has been found in you. Now you're wicked as hell. Now you're going to have to take these bullets. And so this is of course, this is what we're seeing as we go down further into the text, because right after that, you go to verse 20, and guess who's now up the bat?
The king of Sidon.
I mean, and it just goes on and on. So this is what Ezekiel is seeing. Ezekiel is seeing the destruction of these nations. It actually is. But of course, symbolic terminology is being used in order to hammer the point home. That's all we're seeing in the book of Ezekiel. It's just like when you see with Hosea marrying the filthy whore and having children with her.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, this is for symbolic purposes. Clearly the Most High is not saying, there's nothing wrong with taking whores, for a wife, but he's saying, no, I'm going to show it to prove a point. Check this out.
Mm.
But again, there's no need for us to do, like, I don't know if you ever trimmed a bonsai tree. Remember, like in what do you call that? Karate Kid, the original Karate Kid with Mr. Miyagi trimming the bonsai tree.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing with this doctrine, is that we're trimming the bonsai tree. We're just trimming the little leaves and the little twigs, whatever like that. But it's senseless because the actual root of the tree has already been cut down. The Isaiah 14:12. So again, there's actually no need for any further debating with some of these guys. They'd be like, no, but see, still, look at this verse. Well, look at it. It doesn't matter, because the tree, the root of the tree has been snatched out of the ground. It doesn't matter what's growing out of the twigs. It's still based on a falsehood. And nothing good. You can't get a pure fruit from a corrupted tree, correct?
That's correct.
I mean that's how that's what I was taught. You know a tree by its fruit, and vice versa. You know the fruit by its tree. So yeah, it's great. But see, so Ezekiel, it's just like when people try to go into Revelation, they're like, yeah, see, look right here. Well, yeah, well, you can't think that some of the end parts of Revelation is literal, because then you're expecting a 75-foot woman riding on a 100-foot beast with 7 heads and 10 horns to roll up on us, and she's gonna have a big, a pimp cup of the blood of the saints, looking like Little John, with the damn pimp guy. it's ridiculous, and nobody would logically think that should be taken literally. So we have to, of course, be mindful that when you're dealing with a symbolic book, then your understanding of it has to be in symbolic terms. That just seems to make sense. So what am I doing here? Okay. I got to get used to this thing here. So, but yeah, so that I mean, it's understandable how some brothers would actually pull that script up in Ezekiel 28, and like I said, I understand, but again, it's like, well, yeah, but if you keep going, you got to kind of ask why is Lucifer the anointed cherub that covereth?
Mm-hmm.
Why is he anointed? I need to know. You know what I'm saying? So, and of course, they don't really have an answer for that, because they weren't taught to go beyond verse 13.
Right.
13 was the firmament. You can't you can't burst the bubble. You can't go past the dome. And 14 is beyond the dome. So they just they're not even gonna try to deal with that. So. Oh man. Yeah. So looking at the time, I guess I'm gonna ask if anybody has any feedback or anything that they want to just express. Please feel free.
I'm good for the night. That works for me.
I'm also good.
Yeah, let me find out. Everybody's ready to give up the ghost. Nah, but yeah, but like I said, this was like an impromptu thing. You know how brother Matt do. He pop out of nowhere. And
Right.
be like, oh yo, what's going on? Like, chill, what's good? Yeah, man, let's get up together, brother. like, no doubt, if it, because other than that, for the most part, man, I probably would have just been kicking back on the couch watching Star Trek Next Generation reruns.
Hey.
Well, I know I want to order my chronology of hermeneutics. That's what I want.
Say that again?
I want to order my hermeneutics book. I hear there's a pretty good one out there by this brother. Can't catch his name right now, but
Yeah, I think it's Zeb.
Is it Zeb?
Yeah.
Straight garbage.
Straight garbage.
Yeah, I think he's from Cole.
Nah, straight trash. Yeah, oh yeah, he's from Coney Island. He's definitely trash. Nothing good comes out of Coney Island. Look at Stephon Marbury.
Yes, because I think that's the book I want to key in on next. So y'all let me know how to get one of those.
And I know it's late, and this is not a question, but maybe a format for next class or in a couple of months. Maybe we could get everybody could purchase a book from you, and then we read it, and then we come together and discuss and study and pick your mind.
That sounds good to me. I'm ready to get into them cynatic laws. I'm trying to tell you. I need to get that one.
That book is hot.
I need to get that one. That one and yeah, hermeneutics and the chronology of those good old prophets there, because yeah, we got some stuff out of line.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Pardon me, slap me. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Aki. That's, I mean, you know, I have no problem with that. You know, we can, you know, that's not a problem. That's not a problem at all. You know, if you know, if everybody will have me, I'll have them, and you know, we continue doing what we do.
Okay.
You know, most high willing, of course.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to give me some rest, brothers, in the land of West Dallas. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom,
Shalom, shalom, Aki. Lalato.
God, I'm doing likewise.
Yeah, I have to say, I may have to do it as well. I may have to. I'm not gonna give up the ghost, but I'm gonna give up something.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah, lay myself on down. I got one more day to go on in here up to this plantation and clock in.
Okay.
Get that over with. And, may the Most High, continue to keep us all and
Indeed.
allow us to see another day, another Shabbat, which is a beautiful thing, coming up tomorrow. So, it's always a blessing to count through these weeks, even though we're looking at it in this standardized way, with, all right, it's just the 7th day of the week, and that's how we're looking at it right now. But, hopefully that's some similitude of what we're supposed to be doing. And like you said, in our captivity, that's like a major step just to even be attempted to keep it. You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
so may the Most High bless and guard each and every one of you. I love y'all all.
Likewise.
With all sincerity and as an extension of who I am, to know that there's other brothers and sisters, in the nation that know, we know each other without knowing each other. You know what I mean? And that's just,
absolutely,
I think that's what the Most High had designed for us in the first place. When He said, "Yeah, I'm gonna take y'all." Reading in Ezekiel once again. When I found you out in the wilderness, you was covered in your own blood. I cleaned y'all up. And he was chastising us about our heartiness at that point in time, but just to look at that story, as what we came from, and for him to say, yeah, it's going to be you, I'm going to take y'all and clean y'all up. And then what he did build us into, we were definitely a mighty nation. And that's always been the design, and it's going to continue to be, and it's going to be back the way it's supposed to be, Most High willing, when everything falls into place. So, glad to be a part of it at this junction in it. So,
yeah. Praise the Most High.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I just want to thank the brothers and kudos, shout out to Brother Matthew for this pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting no call tonight, and I'm just glad that I got on and I got to get some more knowledge. It was beautiful. So I just want to thank you, one and all, and Most High continue to bless you and strengthen you guys.
And likewise.
Keep y'all with that iron sharpening iron. This is just, I don't know, it's good stuff. So thank you. I praise the Father for y'all.
Yeah, Most High gets all the...
Okay. Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, let's do this again as soon as we can.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe possibly maybe a so-called Saturday evening. I don't know how that works for you, but I was probably going to like really be. Hold on, wait a minute. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's so-called Friday. Oh man, I'm oh boy, I'm just off right now. Yeah, but I was thinking, maybe so-called Saturday afternoon or early Saturday evening, or whatever. I don't know if that'll work out for you or work for you guys.
Early Saturday evening work for me.
It worked for me as well.
Okay, so let's kind of obviously play. We'll see how things pan out, but that sounds like it could work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most High willing, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, with that said,
Mm-hmm.
may the Most High bless and guard and keep y'all.
God, likewise,
Good night, Aki.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Good night.
Good night.
Lala Toba.
Night, mommy.